Isn't this a sports show?
I hope those people that listen to the entire show get the full experience. Super serious Tyreek Hill stuff. First hour and a half.
Yep.
Last 10 minutes, Josh had his underwear on backwards.
Almost entirely.
I was in Las Vegas for like 20 minutes, and I did get naked in the Las Vegas airport.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Not completely naked. I was sort of Winnie the Poohing.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Joshua Brisco here for Joshua Brisco's Twitter account at JB Brisco. You can follow Joshua Brisco on Twitter at JB Brisco. This has been a commercial. Welcome back to Almost Entirely Sports. MVP-ness! Ha ha ha!
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Let's do it! Gonna round out our week here tonight. No AES tomorrow night, so this is our Friday, and we're doing it one man short. Rudy Salazar is out with a series of, he's on our COVID reserve list, got a second shot yesterday. I hope this isn't a HIPAA violation, but he wasn't feeling great, so he tagged out. Tucker Franklin tagged in. He'll join us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Our president of Power Rankings, deputy editor of ArrowheadReport.com, and the new editor-in-chief of InsideTheRoyals.com, part of the SI Network. So we'll talk all things everything with Tucker at 8, and then David Lesky of Inside the Crown and Royals Review will join us in studio at 9 tonight, back in the building for the first time in a billion years. I haven't seen Lesky in the flesh in a very long time, and he'll be in tonight, so that should be a lot of fun. Beards McFly is still here on the other side of the glass. Beards, you got shot number 2 today, right?
I did.
How's that arm feeling right now? Left arm?
Nope, right arm today.
Whoa!
This time.
You switched it up?
I did.
Oh, it doesn't work if you switch it up. If you get shot 1 in your left arm and shot 2 in your right arm, it actually it negates. As opposed to me, my left
That's
side...
That's why I feel so bad then.
My left side is impenetrable. I could bounce a bullet off my left shoulder, but if you poke my right side right now, I deflate like a balloon. None of that was true.
You want to test this bullet thing?
No. No. None of this is true, and everything so far has been a lie, except for the stuff about Tucker and Lesky. That was all true. How you feeling, Beards? You good?
I'm good so far. Like I said, my arm's just a little sore. That's all.
I don't think I actually let you say that on... You told me that in private previously, but I think I cut you off before you could even say the phrase, my arm's a little sore, which is just sort of the energy that I'm bringing to the show tonight.
That's normal.
Can I tell you something magical that happened today and has happened a few times over the... I think twice this week that is not sports related, if you can imagine that?
I mean, you can.
Would you be excited to hear about something magical? I want you to be excited about this.
Sure, why not?
I will, I'll probably tweet out one of the video forms of this. I'll definitely tweet out a picture at some point. It's still so vague, right? It could be anything. But everyone on this show probably knows at this point, I have an affinity for the local wildlife, you know? Even whenever that might be in the form of what you may consider one of the trash mammals, you know? The raccoons, the possums, the star of this story is going to be the groundhogs. Those types of animals, I love them. I just love all of them. I think they're all wonderful. Girlfriend Renee just started volunteering at like a local wildlife place that's got a great, so it's called Wild Souls. Not a sponsor or anything. She's got a great Instagram and Facebook page because they tweet out videos and post videos of baby possums and baby raccoons and baby squirrels doing cute stuff. It's great. But one of the things that has blessed our backyard over this last year and a little bit longer has been the world's most fascinating, wonderful groundhog. I love this little groundhog. He is a big chunker, an absolute unit, and truly just brings joy every time he enters our backyard. We saw him last spring and summer and a little bit into the fall, but they hibernate over the winter. And so Renee said she had seen him at one point this spring, but I hadn't seen this groundhog until about a week ago when there's a window by the shower that goes out into the backyard, and I had stepped into the shower. You know, I had just been wetted by the water coming out of the shower, and I look out the window and I immediately reach back and I turn off the faucet. and I grabbed my phone and began taking pictures through the window of the return of this majestic groundhog. Today, he was back. He was perched up on like a log we have out back there, looking around, almost like a prairie dog, but just like 5 times bigger. But what ended up happening was he started moving around a little bit. He usually doesn't move with a big urgency. Again, an absolute unit, not necessarily a speedster. You know Monty Mole from the Mario series? Monty Mole's like a speedster. Groundhog, in my experience, has not been that. But today, I was looking out the window in my office and saw him out there on the fallen log. And he kind of trotted over to the tree. Do you know that groundhogs can climb stuff? They're called groundhogs, but apparently they can get up a little bit. He didn't scale the tree. I don't want to give you false advertising. But he was sort of looking around. A squirrel came down, and then at one point, this groundhog, who had like jogged over a little bit at one point, this groundhog absolutely ripped loose. This groundhog was throwing down a 4.440 that I simply did not think that it had in its wheelhouse. I will tweet out this video in the first commercial break here at JB Brisco. You can watch along as I was rediscovering this groundhog's magical return to our backyard, and also the fact that it can haul. And later I scared it by accident because I took out my good camera with a long lens and went out and tried to get some pictures directly out back. And he did not stick around for very long, but I got a couple little gems that I'm going to tweet out later this week, or probably tomorrow or something. I'm not like teasing it. I just haven't had time to do that yet. And it was truly magical. Beards saw a couple days ago, speaking of an absolute unit, and Beards, you'll have to check in on this one for me.
Okay.
But there is a raccoon that occasionally will pop up in the 810 parking lot. Whenever we're leaving late at night, we're the only ones here. And I think once since in last year, I saw this raccoon. It was perched up on the trash can right by the door. I didn't see it until I had already kind of scared it away a little bit. And that thing was it's a volleyball with a beach ball with a face and a snout and ears. It was rotund. And I know you had an encounter with this raccoon a couple days ago.
I did. I walked out of the door at night. I walked by the trash can. I kind of heard rustling over by the bushes. I looked back over, and I'm like, there's probably something over there, probably a raccoon. And there, just his head poking up above the bushes, just staring back at me on his hind legs, going, "What are you?" was this raccoon. And we just stared at each other for a few seconds. We're like, no, so you're there. Okay. And then I just walked on.
I didn't want to give you this reference if you hadn't seen it, but have you seen Fantastic Mr. Fox?
No.
Okay. If you had a tattoo based on your favorite movie, Beards, I would watch it. I want you to know that. I understand that's not reciprocal here, but I would. If you had what's your favorite movie? I don't know this about you.
Probably The Mask of Zorro.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I wouldn't. It's been a long time since I've seen that. But if you had a Z tattoo sort of slashed into your bicep or something, I would rewatch it. To make sure I got all your references. But Fantastic Mr. Fox has a moment of animal to animal sort of solidarity, mutual respect and recognition. That's the moment that you had with this raccoon. But and every time I've interacted with oh my God, here's something. When I was leaving yesterday, I was driving down our street. And Renee had mentioned a day or two earlier that there was a massive black bird in our backyard at some point, and there was some pretty big freaking ravens. Joe Flacco is in the backyard. There's some big. I don't know if they're giant crows. I don't know if they're ravens. I don't know what's indigenous here. It is elite.
Sorry.
It is elite. Yes, some elite birds. But she was it was bigger than Scout. I was like, okay, well, I don't know. I didn't see it at the time. I was leaving the house yesterday, and there was something in a driveway of a house a couple of houses down that looked like maybe an animal had maybe gotten squished in a driveway, which you got to move that. I don't know. There was something of interest there because there were 2 freaking vultures there.
Oh, yeah.
Just picking at it. And they were, my first thought was that they were wild turkeys at just first glance. And then I realized that their whole head was that sort of ugly, sort of wrinkly, sort of Deadpool face, red. It was jarring. But if I can lead you to any sort of thought process, any sort of thing to keep in mind, perhaps, is we're all just trying to get to Aaron Rodgers levels of zen, as we talked about in last night's show. Whenever you see one of your local trash animals, or maybe it's just a squirrel that you see pretty frequently, but especially if you interact with your raccoon, your possum, your groundhog. I feel like there's another one that I'm missing kind of from that genre. I don't know. I just looked over at the Twitch chat hoping that someone would say, you know what I'm thinking? Because I have, Renee bought me a mask at some point mid-pandemic that has different little trash animals on it. And there's definitely a raccoon and a possum, and I can't remember what the other one is. Like little cartoon versions. Mm-hmm. Very cute. But if you interact with those... Well, so the other thing with possums is like, they are literally unmatched in America. We do not have... They're marsupials, right?
Yeah.
We don't have wallabies hopping around here. We don't have a whole bunch of marsupials running around. We have possums. And possums are wildly underrated animals. So what I'm offering you, dear listeners, you go into your very long weekend, your Memorial Day weekend. We'll be back on Monday. We're doing the zone on Monday. So we'll be back then. But as you go into for what for almost entirely sports will be 4 days with no AES. Take a second to look at some of the beautiful, perhaps overlooked creatures in your backyard. They will bring you great joy and may lead you to some sort of secrets. Buried treasure. Who knows? I don't know what they're thinking. I can't speak groundhog. I've tried, but I just scared it off. I have another entire groundhog-based story that is really a girlfriend Renee story, but I'll probably leave that for another time at the moment, or I'll let Renee tell it at some point, because there's some twists and turns. It's very funny. When are you clicking so fast there, Beards?
I was reorganizing the audio.
There's no way you were clicking that fast and actually doing anything productive.
I had opened something else up, and it went to the top, so I had to click everything else through to get it all loaded first.
All right. Fair enough. You're right, then. So there's my offer to you as you go into the weekend. Find a possum or a groundhog or a raccoon or a squirrel or a carrion. I guess carrions and vultures are the same things, right?
I think carrion is what...
Or is that just that video game? Oh, are they the same thing? Yeah, carrion is a bird of... Or maybe it's like a square rectangle thing where...
Carrion's what the birds eat, technically.
Oh, you're right. It sure is. Carrion is Latin caro, meaning meat, is the decaying flesh of dead animals, including human flesh. What is the other name or word for, I guess, a buzzard, maybe? I feel like there was something slightly different than just a vulture, because I think of a vulture as being a very specific type of one of those sort of dead thing eating birds. Maybe not. Maybe it was just a straight up vulture.
There are buzzards versus vultures, yes, and there are differences. It says Google. I haven't read what those differences are yet, but they exist.
I'm on the vulture Wikipedia page right now. We've got ourselves a black vulture, a griffin vulture, another griffin vulture, a African hooded vulture, a wake of white-backed vultures eating a wildebeest carcass. Is a group of vultures called a wake? Beards, look out your window. What is that bird? It's happening right now. Look out your window there.
That's
seriously,
close.
It's in the tree over there.
Hang on.
What is that? It's got a very long beak. All right, we're gonna play full-on National Geographic on Twitter. Do you see it, Beards? Right?
Yeah, I saw it.
What was that? It flew off.
I don't know. I'm not a bird expert.
I need a bird watcher on Twitter to help me identify what this bird is. Anyway, I've had a very animal-based day, clearly. Mohawk on Twitter says, I prefer to call groundhogs woodchucks. Same animal, so you have a choice. Neither can chuck wood. Plus, woodchucks make a great malted cider. Groundhogs, woodchucks, I think there's at least one other. There are lots of, they just have a litany of names, and I love all of them. But they're not beavers. Beavers have a flat tail. That's important. It's just oh my goodness, if you Google groundhog, one of the first images that pops up is a groundhog on a leash. And I didn't know that I needed that in my life. But I guess, but I guess I did. Wow, that's really fabulous. But yeah, groundhogs, Oh, I think they're all. Hold on. Last thing. And here's the other name for a groundhog / woodchuck. I believe you can also call them whistle pigs. Beards, did you know that groundhogs are also known as whistle pigs?
I did not.
The groundhog is also referred to as a chuck, woodchuck, ground pig, whistle pig, whistler, thickwood badger, Canada marmot, monarch, weenusk, red monk, land beaver.
A what now?
And among French Canadians in Eastern Canada, siffleux.
Bless you.
Thank you. Let's take a break. Whenever we come back, Andy Reid talked to Chiefs OTAs. We'll get to that whenever we get back. I just said that on the other side of the commercial break. Whenever we come back, we'll talk about that whenever we come back.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports
I might just be a hamster. I think that's a possibility.
with Joshua Brisco
That out of context will be stupendous.
That's what I was thinking when I marked it.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Several mysteries answered. Gardiak on Twitch said they're called whistle pigs because they actually whistle. It's very real. My grandpa used to call them that. We had some on our farm that were friendly, and he'd whistle at them, and they'd do their noise and run off. Their grandpa was a Disney princess. That's incredible. Also, I tweeted out the pictures of this bird that landed outside here a second ago, and Daniel Sperry tweeted back and got it in one. Nailed it. It's a green heron. Someone said, Ian says that's a bird. Ryan said dragon. Another Ryan just responded with a gif of Napoleon Dynamite doing the little hand bird wavy wings thing. But it's absolutely, from what I saw in two very blurry pictures, Daniel Sperry said green heron. And it's exactly what it was. I pulled up a picture. It's exactly what it was. I knew it wasn't a blue heron, though, because there's one of those that lives outside of my family's house in Florida. And they send me pictures of it all the time. And it's great. But I know what a blue heron looks like. I thought this looked sort of heron-y, but I didn't know. It was very small. On a heron scale, I guess. Would have been a big sparrow, but a small heron. And there it is. We're just learning so much today. I didn't know we had little herons in the area. This is really a wildlife show. What was your favorite groundhog name, Beards? Chuck, Woodshock, Ground Pig, Whistle Pig, Whistler, Thickwood Badger. That one's tough. Canada Marmot, Monax, Monac, Weenusk, Red Monk, Land Beaver, and Stifleur. That's Leux.
Bless you.
Amongst French Canadians in Eastern Canada.
I don't know. Weenusk is pretty good.
Weenusk is really good, dude. I might see if we can just unofficially name our specific groundhog in the backyard, if we can just name him Weenusk.
He's a wee nusk.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just a wee little nusk. Just a good weird day.
You want to talk about a honey badger?
Oh, that's great. That's good work, Beards. I like that one. I don't know if we have, or do we have honey badger clips in here?
Yeah, there are.
We'll start with some Andy Reid things. The Chiefs wrapped up round one of OTAs today. Just a little three-day midweek little OTA rip. They'll do it again next week. They'll do it again the week after that, and then there's mandatory minicamp after that, and then partway through June is when it all goes dark for a while, and then eventually we'll get back around the training camp. But the Chiefs will have OTAs for pretty much a month for 3 days in the middle. Worth noting today, Patrick Mahomes was not there. Travis Kelce was not there.
Oh, my God!
Why do they hate the team? Why are they holding out? Do you want more money?
Trade
I'll give it
them
to him.
both.
I'll give it to him. I'll go catch that groundhog and present it to Patrick Mahomes as a gift. But I saw that a bunch of people were reporting that there's a good handful of guys that weren't there today, and Andy Reid had mentioned that a handful of guys had like a cold bug, which, by the way, just if you want a little 30,000 foot little note on how things are different from 1 year ago, if the entire team had a little cold bug last year, they would just not be practicing. It's just a crazy reminder of how far we've come, and how far we went over the course of a year. But some of those guys that weren't on the field may have had an illness issue, and it's OTAs. I mean, they're doing really light work out there right now, but it's what we get right now. A few interesting things I thought coming into the OTA period was going to be who showed up, because there were a lot of stories about teams that some players were going to boycott, some full teams were going to boycott. I think a good portion of that got sort of softened up over the course of the last month or so. The NFL moved some stuff back and is going to do some more stuff virtually, and the NFLPA is having their fight, but also if players get hurt working out on their own off-site, their contracts can be voided. It's a whole mess, and I'm not really sure what the solutions for some of those things are going to be. But for the Chiefs, pretty much everybody was out there. There were a handful of starters that weren't participating today that I hesitate to say like they weren't that they didn't show. Mahomes and Kelsey were not there. Patrick Mahomes has a charity golf tournament thing in Hawaii going on the next few days, so it seems pretty clear that that's what he's most likely doing. Today, as our friend Nate Taylor reported, Mahomes, Kelsey, and defensive tackle Colin Saunders did not participate after being around earlier in the week. Frank Clark, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, and Charvarius Ward didn't practice. There's a chance, I guess, that they were there and that maybe some of them were dealing with some cold symptoms. None of it's a huge deal, though. I wouldn't be panicking. It's all voluntary, and it's not like we're not in training camp yet. It'll all be fine. But even though Mahomes wasn't out there today, of course, he was one of the key storylines of all of this because he's coming off of that surgery to his toe. He had the turf toe suffered against the Cleveland Browns in the divisional round of the playoffs last year, and it obviously was hampering him all the way through the Super Bowl. Got surgery afterwards, and at this point, it's sort of a no news is good news situation. And obviously, we've seen him out and about in the world without the boot a few times recently, and now he's going to Hawaii for a golf tournament. But Andy Reid did address Patrick Mahomes' OTA involvement and said that he kind of laid out what his OTA plan was for Mahomes as he slowly begins to work back.
Yeah, he's been doing everything. So he's been full go, and he's still working with Rick and with toe and that. So we utilize this as more of a passing camp. We don't run the ball much in this thing. So it's good that way. And his toe's really done well.
You'll take that. The differentiation about like more of a passing camp I thought was kind of interesting because I think he's saying there like we wouldn't really want Mahomes scrambling on it right now, maybe. But he's done some stuff on his own, and we've seen him throwing a little bit, even just from the clips the Chiefs have tweeted out. So I think at this point it's not a story until it becomes one again. Basically, I wouldn't be holding your breath. I wouldn't be too nervous about him getting fully healthy, as long as he's able to do everything by training camp. That's when some of those snaps get more meaningful. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Andy Reid also talked a little bit about some of the young guys that have worked in. I said one of the things I was looking for was who was going to show up. Another thing I was looking for was, hey, where would guys like Creed Humphrey and Lucas Niang start OTAs? Because I would love to see them, we talked about this some last night, I would love to see them be in the starting rotation as soon as possible. I think that's just a good sign for the offensive line as a whole in the future going forward. So I'm a little curious about that, but also, again, they're not even going to have their offensive line set by training camp, I don't think. It'll be a much more pertinent question then. But Adam Teicher of ESPN asked Reid about the young players and their performance so far.
Yeah, you know what, Adam, I've been impressed with them. They're smart. They're picking things up, and they're physical players. Not that we're in shorts now, so I say that, but they look explosive, and so that'll become important once the season goes. But they're pounding through all this new stuff, and we're loading it up and throwing it at them, and they seem to handle it pretty good.
The mental side of it is the stuff that we really have at this point no real way of assessing, and anything that even sort of gets to that ends up becoming some relatively reckless and typically unfair speculation. I think that we could speculate that maybe Willie Gay last year didn't make quite the dent in the playbook that the Chiefs would have hoped that he would have, because it just seemed like it took him a really long time to get on the field, and they just weren't kind of trusting him in all that many aspects of it. But again, that's, if I said that and then Willie Gay DM'd me and was like, hey, you're a moron, the reason I wasn't on the field was because of whatever, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense also. Like, we can't judge all of that from here very well. So I think it's a little bit interesting for Andy Reid to speak on it. Also, though, Andy Reid wouldn't say, yeah, we've been really good, but Creed Humphrey's dumb as a box of rocks. If he said that, we would have opened the show with that instead of the groundhog talk, because that would have been newsworthy. But at this point, if they are going through these steps as, again, you have to keep in mind, their first exposure to an Andy Reid offense, a Steve Spagnuolo defense, something that's different than the defenses they were comfortable in college, most of them, starting for multiple years on the college level. or at least being in the system and learning all the terminology and everything collegiately. That's a big swing that I do think we overlook sometimes, because the thing that's changing is not just the level of competition. Obviously, that's the biggest factor that changes from college to the pros, is the level of guys you're going up against. But also, in some ways, you're starting some things over kind of from scratch, from a playbook perspective, I'd assume. So kind of interesting. But these next two clips for me were, I thought, the most interesting things from Andy Reid today, because it comes on the offensive line that we've talked so much about. Also, if you missed it last night, we talked to Chiefs legend, Pro Football Hall of Famer Will Shields, a lot about some of these things right here, the intricacies of the Chiefs' offensive line overhaul. And Orlando Brown, who also spoke, and we got a couple clips that we might get to a little bit later on, kind of talking about why is he wearing number 57 as a left tackle? That's very weird. The last guy that wore that for the Chiefs was Alex Okafor after Breeland Speaks wore it as a rookie. It's a number also that doesn't happen very often for defensive ends either. What'd you shake your head at, Beards? Just that Breeland Speaks came up on the show again?
I was just surprised that he wore 57.
He did.
I forgot about that.
It wouldn't, listen, Beards, it's not like you saw him on the field for 4 straight years getting every snap. So
I never saw him on the ground because he was never on the ground.
Damn right, you never saw him on the ground. But yeah, Breeland Speaks. Alex Okafor only wore 57. He was 97 2 years ago, then 57 last year after they cut Speaks.
Right. Okay.
But he was 57. The Speaks was 57 out of the draft, and I think it's probably. If you said, "Hey, quick, who's wearing number 57?" in your head, I would give it to a linebacker. I think 50s are almost always linebackers for me. Maybe like a pass rusher. Like an outside linebacker who's mostly pass rushing, like Justin Houston, you know. But yeah, he's wearing 57. We'll get to that in a little bit as well. But Orlando Brown, obviously a huge offseason addition, and at this point, you could probably finagle your way around this game if I throw this out as a hypothetical and said, hey, if you could guarantee that one member of the Chiefs this year performs at I don't know, a Pro Bowl level or an all-pro level, or maybe just their highest realistic level, you might actually say like Demarcus Robinson, because then the Chiefs have or Mecole Hardman or Noah Gray or something like that, because then you have a Pro Bowl pass catcher in addition to Hill and Kelsey. But if you're going to do it from just guys that you think have, guys that could perform to their ceiling perhaps, I think you're probably looking at either like L'Jarius Sneed or Orlando Brown, because he is going to move the needle so much on that left side, one way or another. And I feel quite good about him in this offense. But it's not going to be totally seamless. He's not just going to come in and do exactly what he did in Baltimore, which is going to be kind of an interesting little twist in all of that. And Andy Reid talked a little bit. Sven Petro asked him about Orlando Brown coming from a run-heavy scheme like Baltimore to a pass-heavy scheme like he's going to have here in Kansas City, and how that's going to change how he plays that left tackle position.
This is what you'll find out with him as you guys get to know him a little bit more. He very coachable. Andy Heck's a phenomenal coach, and has been there and has played the position. So it's great for Orlando fundamentally to work with Andy. And listen, he's had good coaches before, but in this situation, for what we do, there's nobody better than Andy. So to learn from. And so I think just the initial footwork that you have to take, and he played half the season and left, so it's not a big of a thing. But the things we do in our offense, just a couple of the footwork things, he'll get down and they'll be second nature to him. So he's a nice addition.
Let's go ahead and give Surin's questions the back-to-back here, and let's go ahead and hear from Orlando Brown. Surin asked him about that same adjustment, what it's going to do for him, and I really liked Orlando Brown's answer.
Man, you think you said it right there, with the, the adjustment to more true drop back passes. Just the understanding that, now I got to, play an actual chess game out there on the edge with a guy, because, we're going to have to do certain things a certain way. And, I'm going to do my best to manipulate all of my blocks to the best of my abilities and keep Pat safe. But, it's definitely a learning curve. It's a different system for sure. But, football is football. At the end of the day, once I get it down, I know it's over with.
I love the dismount there is so good. Once I get down, I know it's over with. But also the one little thing there that I'm not going to say was like a slip up. It's not a gotcha thing. But he said the actual chess match, I think was the phrase that he said there. which the differentiation, and the reason that I think the phrasing is kind of funny there is that in Baltimore, it was a boxing match more than it was a chess match. And look, he was still doing the studying and the research and the preparation, and then also the in-game adjustments and stuff in Baltimore. I'm not trying to tell you that he was literally a boxer out there closing his eyes and just punching dudes in the chest. But, and he will still, by the way, use those mauling abilities here in Kansas City. A lot of those traits are going to translate. But the specific ways that they end up revealing themselves, I think are going to be really, really interesting. Because that is going to actually be an evolution that he, and also in some ways the Chiefs offense is going to have to get into. It's something we talked to both, I can't remember who gave me this specific little thought, but we talked to both Matt Derrick and Seth Kaiser about this quite a bit shortly after the trade, and really even looking at like the Chiefs offensive line altogether right now. We talked about it with Lucas Niang having a belly whenever he reported to rookie mini camps and people losing their minds over that. The Chiefs are going to have, Orlando Brown is changing situations, but the Chiefs are going to have different looking bookend tackles than we've seen under Andy Reid to this point. Orlando Brown is not built like Eric Fisher. That's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's a different thing. Lucas Niang is not built like Mitchell Schwartz or really like Mike Rimmers. That's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just different. There are lots of different ways that you can play these positions, and the Chiefs typically have had guys that are very athletic and very agile. You might, depending on the week, hear a phone call on the Chiefs postgame show that we do here where somebody talks about the Chiefs offensive line being too soft, being too finesse. The Chiefs have typically gone sort of finesse in terms of being able to do all of the pulls and all the motion that the offensive line will do, even on on a run play or trying to do something a little bit creative to your opposing defensive line. Or in pass sets, you want to. Eric Fisher's move is essentially, and I think this was a Seth note. Eric Fisher and Mitch Schwartz typically would say on a pass set, all right, and when the ball is snapped, I'm moving backwards. Not backpedaling, of course, but sort of kick sliding back, right? Trying to beat the pass rusher to the top. Because, and if he beats you inside, obviously you're screwed, but you're not going to let a guy beat you inside, and you should have a little help there from the guard depending on where they end up setting up. But typically, their thought is sort of like, hey, I'm just going to kind of try to ride back to the top of this set, and I'll run you out of the play behind Patrick Mahomes, which is also when we saw those rare instances of Patrick Mahomes not being perfect at something. It was often drifting too far back into the pocket and then kind of running himself into Eric Fisher or Mitchell Schwartz and the guys that they're blocking. That's just sort of how it typically would work. The tackles the Chiefs have had these last few years, specifically, obviously, Fisher and Schwartz, weren't necessarily engaging on ball movement, but they would start their dropbacks. Orlando Brown, and again, this is definitely something that Seth wrote about. Orlando, you can go check it out, Chief of the North newsletter if you'd like. Orlando Brown's first move is typically on Hut, is typically get his hands on whoever's in front of him and just sort of grind them down into dust. I don't think that there is going to be a binary 1 or 0 answer to this for the Chiefs, or Orlando Brown for that matter. I think he's probably going to play a little more like Patrick Mahomes is used to playing behind, but I also think it would be pretty foolish for the Chiefs to give all this up for Orlando Brown and then to ask him to play like Eric Fisher. You want an Eric Fisher replacement, you draft that guy. That might have been, Liam Eichenberg or whatever. I don't even know if that's a good comparison or not. But you if you want to try to stay in that mold, you can get guys that fit that mold, and oftentimes you can get them at a bit of a lesser price because not everybody is looking for that type of tackle, that type of lineman. I think the Chiefs and Orlando Brown are going to meet in the middle on some of this stuff, and frankly, I think it's going to work, and I'm pretty excited to see it. I mentioned earlier Orlando Brown is wearing the strange left tackle number of 57. In fact, I believe Curtis Seabolt tweeted out that, you know what? Now I'm questioning if I'm crediting Curtis and Matt Derrick were tweeting about it. So one of the two of them are definitely on this beat. I think it was Curtis that had gone back through the archives. May have been Matt Derrick. If I accidentally credit one of them, that's fine. they can both get credit for this. I think Brian Waters was like the only Chiefs offensive lineman going back to 2000 to wear a number in the 50s, and it's especially rare to see it for a left tackle. It's just not what you would expect on that spot typically. But Orlando Brown is wearing number 57. He was asked about that today, and he explained why he's going with sort of a uncommon number for a left tackle.
I feel like 57 gave me the opportunity to represent two men that had an incredible impact on my life, with that being Jamal Brown wearing 55 and my dad wearing 77 and 78. I just felt like it was an opportunity to, I would have got 75, but Mike had 75. So I was like, 57 is available. And, I just thought it was a great number. I definitely thought it was unique, but it definitely gives me the opportunity to represent those men.
Paying tribute to those guys and also being able to have a unique jersey number that you're not going to have a whole lot of competition for. You're not wearing 23 in basketball. That's kind of fun. I like it. I'm down with that 100%. And Orlando Brown is typically, I think, just sort of based off a few things I'd learned about him over the time he's been a Chief, and from prior going back to his college days. Dude likes a little unique flair. He's wearing the foxtail on his hip as a fashion statement. I love that. Of course I love that. There's no chance I personally was not going to love that. And so, of course, I do love it. One more thing on the offensive line. One more thing from Andy Reid. And well, hold on here. Do I have the right thing? I sure do. Another question from our own Sren Petchwin. Sren asked him, as Andy Reid, about these guys on the right side of the offensive line. Think about who's over there, right? Laurent Duvernay-Tardif is coming back from a year in the medical field. Kyle Long is coming back from a year retired. Lucas Niang is coming back from a year of COVID. Mike Remmers is really the only guy over there who was actually playing football last year on a regular basis. And Sren asked about the potential rust for those guys on the right side of the line.
Listen, there's going to be a battle on the right side, and there are a bunch of guys that can play, and we'll just, we've always done this. We take the 5 best and throw them in there. And so we'll see how it all sorts out. Long right now, you talk probably the most rust that you'd think, and he stepped in and done a nice job. So, I mean, he's playing the right guard spot right now, but we know he also can play tackle, and he's jumped in there next to Remmers, and they've moved right along and done a nice job.
I definitely just saw another heron fly by that may have been a blue heron. Important bird watching news. I think that's pretty interesting, because the one thing that I wonder if we on this show haven't talked about enough in that conversation is what Andy Reid got to there. We will pick the 5 best guys and we'll throw them out there. Where will they be? Who will they be? I don't know. But if they figure out that, hey, actually, Lucas Niang maybe isn't quite ready for prime time yet, maybe Kyle Long looks great. Maybe Kyle Long beats out Remmers and Niang for that right tackle spot. Maybe Lucas Niang ends up playing guard. Maybe it's LDT and Long on the right side. I don't. That was something that popped up on. I had a little cameo over on Ryan Tracy's YouTube channel just a little bit before the show tonight, because Seth Kaiser was eating a habanero pepper, really for no reason. Seth is a very stupid, very smart man, and I think he would agree with that. But that came up somewhere while Seth was eating ice cream. Ryan was saying, like, yeah, I think if LDT is in football shape, and it seems like Kyle Long is, we just haven't really seen as much from LDT, although he's got some Instagram workouts that he's posted. He looks like he's still in pretty good shape. But if those guys are both like in their peak condition, maybe that's the best right side of your line. I don't know. Maybe Austin Blythe, just you can't keep him off the field, but you really want Creed Humphrey in the middle. You can kick him over to guard. He's done that before. So the one thing that I think is intriguing to keep in mind is I have done a whole lot of here's the right guard depth chart, who's going to win. Here's the right tackle depth chart, who's going to win. And I really do think that instead of having a couple of 2-person matchups, we might actually be talking about like 1 5 or 6 guy matchup, where you're just going to take the top 2 or 3 guys and slot them in where they make the most sense. So I think it'll be a really interesting thing that, again, I wouldn't be talking about this if it was just off air because it's OTAs. This particular conversation's not keeping me up at night because I don't think we learned a whole lot this week. But we're working with what we got right now. And hearing Andy Reid talk about that a little bit, you got to latch on to the little things. And I think there's a couple things there that are kind of interesting. We'll take a break. Whenever we come back, I want to bring you some audio from Tyrann Mathieu. He talked a lot and got asked a lot about his Twitter account whenever he spoke to the media today. We'll play some of those clips for you whenever we come back.
At JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy, at Sports Radio 810. Just do it already. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
You know, I went to BYU, so every down's a throwing down. I mean, that's how that goes.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Devin on Twitch said pictures from OTAs today showed the first string offensive line. Brown, Tooney, Creed, Long, and Rimmers left to right. I didn't see that, so I want to note that, and that's perfectly fine by me. I know LDT wasn't there today, and they're going to rotate through different things, but I was hopeful, and also Mahomes wasn't there today, but like I'm hopeful that having Creed be in for first team reps as the favorite for that job, something that I'm rooting for. Because I don't think there's any harm in getting him as much work early as possible, so you can find out by the time you get to training camp, hey, could this guy possibly hold down this role? The funny thing is that usually if you've got rookies versus veterans, you're going to give the inside track to the incumbent. But there's not one at center or right guard really for the Chiefs right now, because obviously Austin Ryder is gone. He hasn't signed anywhere now that I think about it. Unless I missed something. There's no chance that I missed that, right? I'm too online for that. Yeah, free agent. So he'll get a job somewhere, and he should. He's a capable starting caliber center, honestly. Not elite, but fine. But I would love to see Creed get that job in the middle, and Rimmer's over Niang right now. That's the incumbent thing. I would rather it be Niang, but that's fine. Long at right guard is him over being a vet over Trey Smith or Andrew Wiley. I guess Andrew Wiley could have gotten that inside track there, but hasn't. Real quick before we get to Tucker, D. Franklin, Arrowhead Report inside the Royals, and our president of Power Rankings. We'll talk to him here in about 10 minutes or so. Tyrann Mathieu spoke today as well, and he was asked about that tweet that he tweeted out. We talked about it a week or so ago, and he said that he's not expecting to get extended by the Chiefs. It seemed that tweet was up for all of 5 minutes, and it seemed like it was probably born out of frustration more than anything official. He said as much whenever he talked about it today.
I think first, I delete a lot of tweets, but if I'm people, if I'm a fan, I wouldn't put too much emphasis, on that. I think people that know me, they know where my heart is at. I can't control everything, so for me, it is all about just trying my best to kind of focus on the things I can't control, and that's just coming to work every day, trying to make the dudes around me better.
That's all fine. I think that's all reasonable. Another thing on that tweet, Lebo asked Mathieu about how he decides to delete a tweet, leave a tweet up, or if he's getting better at perhaps editing himself before he hits send on a tweet that he may want to yank back a few minutes later.
Yeah, I think, obviously sometimes you tweet things and, other people, reach out and tell you, hey, why, you shouldn't tweet things like that. But I think most of the times it's all me. Obviously some things shouldn't be said. Some things shouldn't be talked about. I think I'm a pretty open guy. I think I'm fair, as far as, showing people who I am. And, it could kind of work against you, sometimes, in this new social media world we live in.
I think that's all 100% true. I would never accuse Tyrann Mathieu of being inauthentic. And I also don't think he's like causing trouble by being, kind of his authentic. And sometimes it seems sort of like his game day self on Twitter, or he's replying to people with 14 followers and like, well, you don't need to do that. Like you're Tyrann Mathieu. You don't have to defend yourself to, some random dude that said you sucked in the Super Bowl or whatever. But also, if he wants to, I mean, that's fine. It's just going to also come with people going like, oh, did you see what Tyrann Mathieu said on Twitter today and then deleted later? Like I said, that's just sort of part of the world that we live in. There are plenty of guys that are on Twitter and are relatively filtered. There are plenty of guys who aren't on Twitter at all. I am a person who is extremely online. And so you tweet stuff, people pick it up, and if you tweet something and delete it a few minutes later, it's still people are going to have seen it and screenshotted it, and the internet lives forever, right? That's a lesson that most of us, I think, have probably learned by this point. I think it's all kind of interesting. I'm not like losing my mind anywhere on it, but I think it's kind of interesting. Beards, let's skip ahead one here because I want to. A lot of this was about the Tyrann Mathieu extension possibilities, and Petro asked Mathieu if he's still optimistic at this point that a deal could get done. I think Petro also specifically noted that the Chris Jones contract extension was stretching out well through this time as Jones's deal was getting worked on.
I think the negotiation process is, I think it's tough on anybody, especially a player. But, like I said, I try not to focus on it too much. I think I'm a fairly optimistic guy. I always look, I try my best to look out the bright side, of the window. But this is my third franchise. So I understand the business. I'm grown enough to understand it. I think I'm mature enough to understand it. And but I'm also mature enough to understand that, it's still a lot of work that I got to put in, that needs to be put in. And just kind of let God handle, everything else.
I think the maturity and experience is something that also plays very much into like the frustrations. It was something that he said almost specifically in that one tweet that he deleted and ended up being a thing, is that like, I've been here before. So, Chris Jones was trying to get through his rookie deal in a franchise tag and stuff like that, right? Tyrann Mathieu's on his third team. He ultimately didn't stick around Arizona for as long as maybe at one point looked like he would. He only spent a year in Houston. Now he's been here and performed really well so far. Are the Chiefs willing to give him a big deal? Is he going to end up on the move again next offseason and go find a different team once more? I think his eyes are open on that, and I don't know if that's super common or super rare, but I thought that was a very characteristically sort of honest assessment of like, yeah, man, I mean, I'm going to play football next year somewhere. I'm going to play. I'd love for it to be here. And if they're not going to pay me what I think I'm worth, I'm going to go do it somewhere else. And I know that I can do that because I've already done it twice before over the course of 3 different teams in my career to this point. So I think at this point, I think the deal gets done, but I also thought that it was going to get done before free agency. I really did. Because pre-free agency, they could have used a little extra cap flexibility. They could have maybe been able to maneuver around a little more and maybe find themselves able to land Juju Smith-Schuster or whatever. But at this point, I have a relatively hard time looking down the road and seeing the Chiefs without Tyrann Mathieu in the very near future. We'll take a break. Tucker D. Franklin, president of Power Rankings. We'll talk about some Chiefs stuff, some Royal stuff, and, of course, some Power Rankings. That's next on Almost Entirely Sports.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Number 4.
Number 4?
Pigeons.
I mean, like, yeah, in the 1800s, the pigeons were a top 5 bird, for sure. So you got messages around.
What? Why?
I just think they're funny.
All right, number 3.
The crows in the Game of Thrones, you know?
Oh, okay.
The carrier
yeah.
crows.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Number 2.
The great tit.
Beards, dump it.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
This will be ironic momentarily, but I the reason that there was a longer bit of bump music there just now is because I cannot find my pen that I think I left in one of 2 different places, but none of them are in this studio. It'll become noteworthy momentarily.
I've got some in here. You need one?
I know I have plenty of pens, but I really want my pen.
That's fair. I've got my
And-
own pen I always use.
I've got this multicolored one that's actually very good for things like, you know, you're doing a lot of note taking and whatnot. But right now, I just want my good pen.
I've got one of the precise rolling ball pens. We've had this discussion before
Yeah.
about like power ranking pens.
Yeah, that one's like a tier. But at this
Yeah.
point in my life, I've discovered I think at least 2 S tier pens, and I'm never going back. Like I'm never gonna use like the Bic ones that come out of a box of 1,000 of them. Never going back. That's exactly where I'm at in my life. Is that I've got pen preferences. And who doesn't? I know that Tucker D. Franklin, who joins us now, has pen preferences. You can follow him on Twitter at Tucker D. Franklin. He is the deputy editor of ArrowheadReport.com. He is the host of the Ref and the Kicker Chiefs podcast. He is the new editor-in-chief of the brand new Inside the Royals on Sports Illustrated, InsideTheRoyals.com. Tucker, thank you for carving some time out of your evening here that I know has been just, had some very boring, very slow last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you know what? Who knew that being a part of 2 websites and starting one from scratch essentially was going to be so busy?
Yeah.
Who knew that?
Who could have guessed? You also, since last time we talked, you and your girlfriend went to Disney, one of them, the Disney Florida. I don't know which one is, that one's World? Is that one World?
Yes, World.
You went to Disney World. I would like to know about your Disney World experiences, please, before we get into some Chiefs, some Royals, and some power rankings.
Yeah, so when we went there, they still had, so for part of our time there, they still had masks are mandatory everywhere. So, like, even when you were walking outside, you still had to wear a mask. It was getting kind of hot there in Orlando about this time. It's, probably 80s in these days, so it's kind of hot wearing a mask. I've got one of those college basketball coach masks,
Yes.
that are like the mesh-looking one.
Yes.
They wouldn't let me wear it there. So I had to go
wow.
with, like, the medical mask, and so I was getting sweaty and all that. But midway through our stay there, they went to, okay, you only have to wear a mask when you're inside and on rides, which it got hard to wear your mask on rides. I know when I ride like roller coasters and stuff, I scream uncontrollably.
Right.
So it is because I am very scared. But it was hard for me to have that mask on, but it was nice to walk around without a mask. That's obviously if you've been vaccinated. And I luckily have been vaccinated. So it was a really good time. Got to ride some roller coasters. Went to the Star Wars land. Didn't get to ride the new ride just because it's impossible to get on still. But yeah, had a good time. Next time I go, I've got to make myself a droid. That's what I've decided. That's what I want to.
Well, I was gonna ask about if you made yourself a droid or a lightsaber. I hadn't seen any pictures. You hadn't mentioned it or anything, so I figured you probably didn't. But for me, that's pretty much like that's the gold standard right there. That's the thing I'm going for.
Yeah, and they just actually increased the price on the lightsaber. I think it's like up to like $250 now. So, and the droid is actually it's a lot of money. And the droid is cheaper. It starts at $100, but it's not going to end at $100.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. The droid like moves around too.
Yeah.
I think Matt Derrick has made a droid before.
Yes.
I remember you guys talking about it on the show.
100%.
That's where I was first introduced to it, and I said I need to do that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get a reservation there too. With COVID and everything, you have to make reservations to everywhere you go. But they're starting to lax that stuff up. So hopefully next time we go, we can do a little bit more of what we want to do instead of what we could do, if that makes sense.
What was the longest that you stood in any line over the course of your trip?
Ooh. It was for the Star Wars ride, Smuggler's Run, which you fly the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Very
It's one of those, like, I don't know what to call it. It's like not like a virtual reality. It's like 4D, but it's like you're all surrounded by the screen, and the place actually moves, like the capsule that you're in, so you actually feel like you're in the ship. I think we waited like an hour and 45 minutes, almost 2 hours for that ride. That's the hardest part. I know we had a conversation about that while I was there, and I said, it is a lot of waiting in lines, but parks are down. Like they just raised the capacity, but when they were there, the capacity was still not, I don't even think 50% yet. So that's kind of what you get with going during a pandemic, I guess, is you get lower capacity and less wait time in lines. But that's a long time to wait for one ride, and I think it's like 10 minutes the ride might be. So. Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but Beards for his honeymoon coming up here in Beards like less than a month, right?
A month, yeah.
They are going to Disney Worlds.
Florida.
They're going to Florida Disney. What piece of advice would you give to Beards here?
Piece of advice: be ready to spend money. It's as well as I don't think what they call it, the happiest place on earth. It's also the most expensive place on earth, and there's nothing wrong with that. You'll have a good time, but I would be sure to map out your days on what rides you want to go to and prioritize those things, because you're probably not going to be able to get to do everything you want to in one day. My girlfriend Tara, Disney expert. She is an expert when it comes to going to Disney and doing things at Disney, mapping out days, getting reservations. I am lucky that I am getting involved with a woman who is so well-versed in the Disney sphere. And so when we go, it's not a laid-back vacation. It's all right, we're going to get stuff done. We are on a mission.
Yeah. Beards, how does that make you feel?
I mean, I'd been before about like a year and a half ago or so. And Rebecca and her family have gone several times, and they know what they're doing.
Okay.
And that was my first time going, so.
All right.
I know what to expect for the most part. Although I have not done the Star Wars park yet, but we are doing that.
Nothing more, nothing screams vacation quite like needing a freaking itinerary to get point A to point B throughout an amusement park. It does not appeal to me the way that it appeals to lots of people.
All right, it's time for bathroom break. Let's go. We only got 45 more minutes.
Right. You better get in there and poop and get back out in a flash, because if we don't get in line, we're not going to be able to get through everything all we want within the next 2.5 hours.
Listen, it's not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you that. And it is fun, once you get on these rides, you get that nice adrenaline rush. And waiting in the lines is like a good little buffer, I guess, between adrenaline rushes to make you still want that again. So, like I said, not for the faint of heart.
The inverse of that is at the Fall Festival in Wichita at least a decade ago now. I'm getting old. My cousin and I had wristbands, and I think it was relatively late in the day where we there were no lines remaining, and we just for 20 minutes just sprinted from one ride to another and just were trying to compound it, just get that rush. And then eventually I barfed on the little spinny kind of teacup sort of ride. Not literally teacups, but it was a very quick spinning multi-rotational ride, and I barfed. And I will not go about it that way again.
See, you got to have the layoffs. That's what I've learned, and that's probably what Disney has going for them with the lines is you need the layoffs, because there's one ride there, Everest, that Tara said when she worked there, she rode back to back, and she said that she almost threw up. So I think Disney's actually thinking about these lines, thinking, okay, we can actually get people to ride more rides and feel better if these rides are longer. There's not many things that Disney doesn't think about when it comes to these parks.
That's probably true. Is it true that there's just no bugs or rats or anything because they just kill them all every night?
I think so. I think when they close the parks, you have a Grim Reaper that comes around and gets all the rats and the bugs. Have you seen Over the Hedge? You've seen that?
Yes, I almost referenced Over the Hedge earlier, but we've referenced it on the show enough times already.
Yeah, I actually watched that movie again. It's on HBO Max, so if you have HBO Max, you can watch it. And I love the exterminator on there.
Yes.
The Vlad, I think is his name.
Yes.
And like the little truck he has is him hammering a bunny.
Yes.
That's what I imagine like the exterminator to be like at Disney is just Vlad.
Did you see Walt Disney's Frozen Head anywhere?
No, I'm trying to find it, but Tara won't let me in the tunnels. So Tara's probably seen it because she's been in all the tunnels, but she won't tell me if it's there or not. I'm still trying to find it.
Everyone should watch Over the Hedge. I'm gonna acquire that. So I'm gonna see if I've got an HBO Max login. Beards, I might need you to give me your HBO login that whoever you have it from or whatever.
No, it's mine.
Is it
I
yours?
think you have it already.
I definitely did at some point, but I think I don't know. I'll double check at some point because I think my weekend plans are going to include watching Over the Hedge just for a good little 90-minute just return to a simpler time.
Didn't we have what was the thing that ended up happening with like the director or the writer or something of that movie in our show? Wasn't there something weird that happened there?
The original, I mean the original comic book author liked a tweet of mine randomly or something, and I follow him on Twitter now. I see Michael Fry's tweets on a regular basis. I really like Over the Hedge.
I didn't know how star-studded that cast is.
It's incredible. It's Dwayne, by the way. Dwayne is the name of the the exterminator. Yeah, it's crazy. Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, who most people now know from Schitt's Creek, with its CH, it's fine FCC. They were the possum couple. Porcupine couple. Thank you. No. Yes. Porcupine. They did something together before the wonderful Schitt's Creek. They were in Over the Hedge.
Because it was William Shatner and Avril Lavigne were the possums.
That's right.
just
Wanda
excellent.
Sykes was the skunk. Nick Nolte was the bear. And then Vincent was Thomas Hayden Church, who I still know from George of the Jungle fame. It's incredible.
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis is RJ. It's an absolutely star-studded cast. It's incredible.
Nick Nolte.
Did I not just say that?
I don't remember. Did you say Thomas Hayden Church?
You did.
Yeah, Thomas Hayden Church also in it. Do you know Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara are in it, Beards?
Did you know that William Shatner is a possum?
Also, haven't mentioned this, Steve Carell is the squirrel.
Right.
So good.
That's the craziest one.
I love it. We'll talk more Royals later in the show if you're coming to Almost Entirely Sports for your serious Royals takes. But boy, howdy, these were two big honkin' stinkers, these last two games.
Not good ones.
No.
When you go back to play the season highlights, these are not two games that you'll play on that season highlight film.
No, I would say probably not. All right, and that concludes our Royals section. Do this, Tucker. If people want to read about the Royals right now, they can go to InsideTheRoyals.com on the SI Fan Nation Network. What's up right there? What can people look forward to if they go check out Inside the Royals right now?
Well, we got a lot of takeaways. I got my takeaways from this series against the Rays. First game was a good game. Brad Keller pitched a really good game. I was impressed by Keller, I would say. I've never found myself doing this before this year, but like when Brad Keller comes around, I get just nervous.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this going to be like? It's like one of those slot machines. You never know the numbers are going to come up on there. But he pitched really well against a very good Rays team who has scored a lot of runs recently. I wrote in there that during the Rays' 11-game winning streak, they had a plus 50 run differential. Whew. And that's a lot of runs in favor of you. It doesn't take a scientist to tell you that, or a math magician.
Did you say math magician?
Uh-huh.
Awesome. I love that. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, that's okay. But the Royals held the Rays to, 3 runs in the first 2 games, which I was impressed by that. The bullpen had been playing really well, pitching very well. They didn't even allow an unearned run when it turns to the extra innings game because of the runner on second rule. It doesn't go down as an earned run for anybody. And then they come out on today's game and they allow 6 runs in the first 3 innings. And you're like, okay, this actually seems about right. It's like, okay. We got to the point where we were like, okay, are the Royals actually a good baseball team? And then they come out and do this, and you're like, okay, they are who we thought they were.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I took away from this. They go to Minnesota here in a little bit. I'll have a preview of that series up tomorrow, and we got a story coming up here from Marcus Mead. He does the Royals Weekly podcast, so we partner with, and he writes a weekly column for us. He's looked at the Royals pitching. I think this is really interesting. Actually, the Royals hitters against the Royals pitchers, Royals hitting against other pitchers. Holy cow. I think I just had a stroke. But he looks at softer pitchers, I guess in air quotes. Pitchers who don't throw as hard as, other ones, because it's 21st century. It's all about velocity right now when it comes to pitching. And the Royals have struggled against the softer pitchers. And I find that very interesting. He dives into what he's found number-wise from different guys and different players on the Royals in the lineup and why they've struggled against softer pitchers. It's a really interesting piece. That'll be up tomorrow as well, leading up into the Minnesota series, which the Royals really need to take 2 out of 3 in Minnesota at least to kind of get them bolstered back up.
We'd be talking about this series so differently if they just hadn't blown it last night. Also, like today would have just been would have been unfortunate, but they would have won the series still. Meh. Frustrating. We mentioned earlier we were playing some Tyrann Mathieu sound. He talked about like his Twitter habits and everything. And earlier he said that he's hoping to switch from number 32 to number 21. Somebody on Twitter with the display name Snowman tweeted 21 is definitely faster than 32, which I believe he said later clarified that like it seems like a fast number as opposed to 32. Tyrann Mathieu though responded with Honey Badger would definitely eat a snowman. And that's just Tyrann Mathieu. He just uses Twitter different, man. He's just got a different purpose whenever he opens up that Twitter app on his phone. And there's a very powerful energy emanating from his Twitter account.
He's built different in more ways than one. Tyrann Mathieu is. I'm glad that he squashed our beef today, though, in his press conference. I'll talk about it on tomorrow's Roughing the Kicker. He said, "Hey, I don't mean everything I tweet." So I said, "Okay, thank you for squashing our beef that we had." So
yeah. Do you want to? I had forgotten about that. Do you want to recount that really quick, and then we'll get into power rankings?
Yeah. So actually, in the playoffs, remember I wrote a story about how people have been saying that the Chiefs defense wasn't going to be very good this year, and then in the playoffs they really turned it around and were a very good defense in the playoffs. And I wrote about that, saying how people have said or they didn't expect the defense to be as good as they were. And Tyrann Mathieu actually responded to the Arrowhead report count and said, "This is some funny bleep," with a couple laughing emojis. And I remember seeing that notification on my phone and thinking, what is going on? Because it was a positive story about Tyrann Mathieu, too. Right. That was the thing. It's I was saying, yeah, Tyrann Mathieu, really good football player. Look at him. Mr. Mathieu is a very good football player still. I still believe that sentiment to this day. But before we could get it screenshotted, because it all just happened very fast, he deleted it, as he usually does. And then later, he was talking about how all these people want YouTube subscribers, and he just wants to be in the Hall of Fame. And he wants Hall of Fame votes. And Jordan Foote, friend of the program, frequent flyer on the Roughing and Kicker podcast, also writer for Arrowhead Report. You can follow him on Twitter at Footnoted.
Great plugs.
That's good, wasn't it? Smooth, too. He screenshotted one of my tweets asking, hey, we're close to so-and-so many subscribers, and he liked it. He likes the tweet. So he's like, yeah, this is the idiot I'm talking about here. Wanting YouTube subscribers. I just want Hall of Fame votes. And I had to respond and say, hello, Mr. Mathieu. I've never said anything bad about you in your life, so I don't know why you hate me so much. But we've got this beef squashed now because he went on and said he didn't mean it. So I think he was talking directly to me during that press conference. I don't know who else he would be talking about because I think that Roughing the Kicker is the only Chiefs podcast. Don't look that up, but I think it's the only Chiefs podcast. So for sure. That would be the only thing he's talking about. So I'm glad he went out there.
You're the only people on Twitter for sure, and only one that wants YouTube subscribers and all that. By the way, you can watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook channels. Go ahead, Tucker.
Yeah, we're the only show in existence in Kansas City that talks about the Chiefs.
Yep.
I don't know if you know that. So it's just kind of a small world. It's great that he would notice talking about the Chiefs, but I appreciated Tyrann Mathieu going out of his way and apologizing to me, essentially.
Essentially, personally apologizing to you. I expect you to get a nice handwritten letter, perhaps, and
Notarized.
Yeah, I think he will. Did you say notarized? I think he will subscribe to the YouTube channel in exchange for your future Hall of Fame vote, and I think you guys will be even at that point.
Listen, and if I had a Hall of Fame vote, Tyrann Mathieu would be the first guy I'd put on there. I loved Mr. Mathieu as a football player. I think he's a phenomenal football player, and I've never said anything bad about Mr. Mathieu, and I will never say anything bad about Mr. Mathieu.
Can you hold on for a commercial break? We'll do so we can do that and come back and do our power rankings.
Yes, I can, Mr. Brisco.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Tucker D. Franklin will join us again here on the other side of the break. We'll do power rankings, our top 5. You know what? Here's what we'll do. Here's our teases. You ready? Here are the categories. Whenever we come back, our top 5 NBA playoff storylines, our top 5 office supplies, and our top 5 potential future Royals losses. That is next.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Tucker, what's your number 1 type of ice?
Vanilla.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
It's time for Power Rankings with our president of Power Rankings, Tucker D. Franklin. You can follow him on Twitter at Tucker D. Franklin. You can read his work on arrowheadreport.com, InsideTheRoyals.com, the Roughing the Kicker podcast, and just follow him on Twitter. He'll tweet everything out that way. Tucker, how are you feeling about the categories previously teased, office supplies, future Royals losses, and NBA storylines?
I'm feeling great about these categories. I don't know if you wanted me to pick the first one, but I am feeling good about them.
No, not yet. We're not officially in power rankings time because the music hasn't started yet. Beards hit the music.
Right.
Which category would you like to begin with, Tucker, dear president of power rankings?
Oh, man. Okay, let's start with the Royals losses one.
All right, so this category is future Royals losses. We've looked into, it's been a couple toughies in a row. Late game, bit of a choke job, blowout today. What could be coming next for the Royals? Beards, number 5, future Royals losses.
Number 5, he hasn't played in the team since he was last year. Brandon Maurer just comes out of retirement for closing on one game and just gives up 18 runs in an inning.
That seems likely. Tucker, number 5.
I've got a dropped third strike. Just how that one works out. That's the worst.
I've got a number 5. Just 1-0. Hasn't happened yet this year. Feels like it's in the cards. Just 1-0 is all. Beards, number 4, future Royals losses.
Number 4, did you see that Javier Baez nonsense that happened today?
No, I didn't.
So it was 2 outs.
Oh, yes, I did.
Yes.
Sorry, yes, I did.
The 2 outs, there was a guy on third. He hits the ball. He runs to first. Then kind of like turns back. The catcher or the first baseman follows him. And then the guy from third comes and steals home. And then he gets to second.
Because the first baseman throws it to the catcher. Catcher drops it. Catcher goes to first. It's a wild throw. Baez gets to second.
Yep.
And all the first baseman had to do was either run him back to home plate, where there is no safety for the hitter, or got to get to first, or just touch first base. There were 2 outs. So you think that's going to happen?
It could. I'm not ruling it out.
Tucker, number 4.
So I've got this scenario that I'm definitely afraid of for the Royals. You got a runner on third, close game, and then there's a balk. And then the Royal comes home. So that's what I think is up next.
Number 4 for me, the team mobs Angel Hernandez the next time that he is calling balls and strikes behind the plate, and they have to finish the game with only 4 players. That's my fear. They just have a pitcher, a catcher, a first baseman, and 1 outfielder. Beards, number 3.
Number 3, they have come to the realization that nobody can hit, so they put in Slugger. Just for hopes and prayers.
Tucker, number 3, potential future Royals loss.
I've got the hidden ball trick. You know that little trick that they play? I think it's Major League that they do it in, where they like fake the throw and everyone acts like the ball's going everywhere. I think that's in the cards.
Number 3 for me, Bobby Witt Jr. is called up and hit 6 home runs in his debut. They lose 14-13. Beards, number 2.
Number 2, imagine this scenario with me, if you will. They're down 3.
Yeah.
Bottom of the 9th, bases loaded, 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Jorge Soler at the plate. Mid-swing, strains his butt. Strike 3, out 3. Game over.
Tucker, number 2.
So I've got kind of a similar scenario, but it's 0-0. They're on the road. Bottom of the 9th, they're on the road. Home run, looks like a routine fly ball, though, goes off of Andrew Benintendi's dome into the stands, kind of like a Jose Canseco type thing.
My number 2 is that Jorge Canseco headbutts a home run over the wall for a walk-off home run loss. I just think that I wrote down, what did I write down first? I scribbled it out. I wrote down Michael A. Taylor first, and then I decided, no. That's a Jorge Soler right field situation. And I love where your head is at there, Tucker, and I hate where Soler's head is at in the situation, yes. Beards, number 1.
Number 1, Mad Bum. That's all I'm gonna say.
Damn it. Tucker, number 1.
I've got a walked-in run.
For me, number 1, Danny Duffy returns. His elbow is fine. And not only is it fine, he throws a 9-inning, full, complete game no-hitter, but it's 0-0. The Royals can't score in the top of the inning. Home team comes up. Runner starts on second base. Ball in play. Easy grounder. Booted. He scores on an error. Danny Duffy loses the game despite giving up 0 earned runs, fresh off of a Tommy John scare, and a no-hitter in fact, a completed no-hitter, that the Royals still lose. That's number one for me. Beards, do you want to go NBA storylines or office supplies next?
Let's bring it up. Let's go office supplies.
Let's go office supplies. All right, Tucker, what's your number 5 office supply?
I've got a good calendar. I don't think that any office is complete without a nice solid calendar.
Number 5 for me, paper clips. They're less permanent than staple. They can hold some stuff together. Also, if you get bored, you can turn them into a cool necklace. Beards, number 5.
Number 5, the pen. You got to have a good pen. You have to have a good pen, not a Bic pen.
Son of a Bic. Mine is literally dried out right now. I have this one that I'm not trying to. I didn't really want to use.
Do you want me to bring you one?
No, I'm gonna suffer through it until I can find my good pen again. Am I up next?
Yes.
Number 4 for me, the ever underrated alligator clips. The ones that are, black triangles with the silver little sort of curvy handle kind of thing on them. I don't know that they're actually called alligator clips. At some point in my life, that's what I started calling them, and I've kept to it. Very versatile, can be used in a variety of different places, can help you organize cables, can hold a stack of papers together. Love an alligator clip. Tucker, number 4.
I've got sticky notes because you have your main pad that you keep all your notes on, that you do your notes, but you also need sub notes, so you don't really want to use a full page on your main pad floor, but you also need to write this stuff down. I've got sticky notes at number 4. I think they're vital to the lifeblood of your desk.
Beards.
Number 4, the mini basketball hoop. Sometimes you just need to take a break, and you just got to take a shot.
My number 4 is a bottle of liquor, because sometimes you just have to take a break, and you have to take a shot. My number 3, actually, I think, my number 3 was sticky notes. For all the reasons Tucker said. Very versatile. Gotta have a sticky note. I set a lot of reminders on my phone. If I'm literally, my Amazon cart right now has paper clips and sticky notes in it because I need both of them. And I'm done living my life without sticky notes. Tucker, number 3.
I've got the main notepad that you do. I like legal pads is what I like to use. I usually started using these legal pads, and I like to take notes on those for like my main notes, my main brain activity, I guess. I didn't have a very good brain activity right there, trying to think of that.
I'm currently holding up a full-size legal pad. Beards is currently holding up a mini legal pad. We are on one same brainwave, brain length, brain activity right now. Beards, number 3.
Number 3, the chair. What are you going to do, sit on the floor?
That's a great point.
Ooh.
Great point. Number 2 for me, a good pen. I don't know if it's in the video studio behind Beards, in our multimedia studio. I don't know if it's in our office down there. I was in both of those rooms recently before the show. I cannot find the pen that I used to actually write out this list, and I hate not having it. Love a good pen. Tucker, number 2.
I've got a coaster. While it might not
Wow.
be traditional, you need to have a coaster for all your drinks that sweat because you don't want to ruin your nice desk.
Great point. Beards, number 2.
Number 2, the stapler. It's just fun to use.
That ka-chunk, the feeling of it, the sound of it, very satisfying. I love that. For me, number 1, a good organizer. Not just a pin cup, but I have one that's got like sort of pin, basically 2 sort of pin compartments on the sides. It's got a little place for like paper clips on the top. There's a little drawer in it that I have a bunch of different packs of gum in. I love a good sort of multi-purpose organizer. Tucker, number 1 office supply.
I've got the good pen. You gotta have. I think everything goes off the rails if you're using a bad pen.
Yeah.
You can't keep your train of thought. You kind of Brooks Koepka it once you use a bad pen. You just kind of close your eyes.
If I had to either write on a legal pad with a crappy pen or write on my hand with a good pen, I would choose the latter.
Yep.
Beards, your number 1 office supply.
Number 1, the staple remover.
Wow!
Sometimes you just staple too many things. Also, it looks like a snake.
Yeah, 100%. 100% looks like the open mouth of a snake. That's a sleeper, Beards, but I love it. Love that. All right, top 5 NBA storylines throughout the NBA playoffs right now. Who wants to go first? Who hasn't gone first yet? Beards, have you gone first yet? I don't think you've gone first yet.
Okay.
You might have gone first the first time.
Tucker
number 5.
Okay, number 5. This is a storyline every year, but it's LeBron LeBron flopping, and how much can he flop? That's always a storyline. It never gets old.
I have a feeling he'll show up again on our lists. My number 5, Ty Lue's face. Will he ever look not confused on the sidelines as the Clippers are letting it all slip through their fingers? He just has resting confused face. I don't think he's actually confused all the time, but that's the expression that he gives me. It doesn't really fill me with confidence.
I think he's confused pretty much all the time.
Well, I'll let you say that. Beards number 5.
Number 5. Is the NBA going to investigate how LeBron is managing to play basketball even though he's died twice in the last 3 games? I feel like that's a cap violation. Health and safety protocols.
Definitely health and safety protocols for sure. Tucker, number 4.
I've got Luka genuinely hating the Clippers. That is becoming one of my favorite storylines.
Especially Patrick Beverley.
Luka absolutely balling out. Oh, yeah. That dude can get under your skin, but Luka doing a great job getting under the Clippers' skin.
My number 4 storyline, very similar. It's Trae Young turning into this prematurely balding villain who is just straight up out here, just in a win, in a loss, telling New York as a city to go bleep itself. And what I would really like is for him to take the Hawks all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and in Game 1 of the Conference Finals, he comes out with a completely shiny, shaved dome, looking like Jordan's prime, just
Reggie Miller. That's
absolutely smooth up there. That would be perfect. Full Reggie Miller, and I don't think he would ever miss a shot if he finally just shaved off all his hair. That's number 4 for me. Where are we at? Beards number 4?
Number 4.
Beards number 4.
Somewhat in taking what you guys, or what you especially just said, all the new players that are in the playoffs for the first time. Trae Young, Devin Booker's been great. Ja Morant was freaking amazing last night. It's fun to have all these new young guys have good playoff experience. And then Luka's, second year in the playoffs, but he's still awesome. He's still young, so.
You're right. I think that's good because the conference finals are still going to almost certainly include teams of guys that we've seen in huge spots before.
Sure.
But Trae Young, if you would have said, hey, rank your top 5 NBA villains, at least among like excellent players, not just goons essentially, Trae Young would not have been on anybody's list a week ago, and right now, he probably is for a lot of people. That's fun. Seeing people like make their identity. I'm talking too much. Number 3, for me, did I start this with Tucker? Number 3. Boy, howdy, I'm bad at remembering the order of these things.
Yeah, I've got Kyrie going back to Boston.
Wow.
There's a lot there.
Sure is. You don't want to dig into any of it, it sounds like.
No, I don't.
Number 3 for me, maybe one of the most important storylines in the NBA playoffs. What will Anthony Davis be praised for next? Simply showing up this time? He got absolutely crowned as a god amongst men because he chose to take Game 2 seriously after being swallowed like an anaconda by DeAndre Ayton in Game 1 against the future champion Phoenix Suns. Anthony Davis, maybe if they just go, you know what, his jersey is tucked in really crisply today. I think, you know what?
He's wearing that undershirt.
That undershirt, man, that really accentuates his massive shoulders. What an athlete that guy Anthony Davis. I'm not bitter. Beards, number 3.
Number 3. I want to know how Rudy's going to react when Nikola Jokic has to get his MVP trophy at home. Not in Denver at home, but on his couch sitting at home because they've been eliminated by the Blazers.
Tucker, number 2.
This storyline kind of goes back a ways, but it's the playoff P saga. They got the playoff P, the pandemic P, to now layoff P. That is one of my favorite things. When the playoffs roll around, you can always count on playoff P to not show up.
Number 2 for me, LeBron James's quest to win yet another title, despite basically being the Black Knight from the Monty Python and the Holy Grail film, where he is out there just a torso, man. He's had his arms ripped off. He's had his legs ripped off. He's blind in one eye. It is an absolute ever-loving miracle that he is out there every night, despite having so many, not just career-ending injuries, but as Beards pointed to earlier, nearly life-ending injuries, certainly life-altering injuries. Just really tremendous to see LeBron power through the loss of all limbs, one eye, and most of his senses. I'm not better. Beards, number 2.
Number 2. The Clippers' choke job is incredible. Just in the way they wanted to avoid the Lakers at all costs. They tanked the last 2 games against bad teams to play Dallas in the first round. Dallas apparently didn't want to play them. just because like they had bad regular season success against them, and Luka has just taken them and just dismantled everything they do. And like in the last game, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were really good, and it didn't matter. And it's unbelievable that this is happening, and it's wild.
Tucker, number one NBA playoff storyline.
The Knicks are back, and the Garden is buzzing. That's the number one storyline, is that people are very shocked about how people in New York, Knicks fans specifically, get excited about playoff basketball.
Number one for me, the fact that the Phoenix Suns are about to be NBA champions. Beards, number one.
Number one, I'm going to look ahead a little bit. I think I can say this because Milwaukee is currently up 20 on Miami in the fourth quarter.
Sure. What does it have to do with the Suns winning the title, which you're predicting
Bucks
also?
is going to be wild. It's going to be really interesting to watch because you've got this super team in Brooklyn, and then you've got Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday has been an excellent addition for Milwaukee. It's going to be really interesting to see all those teams play together, and I'm just ready for the excitement.
Do you think
Whoever wins that series is coming out of the East?
that would be a matchup next round?
Yes.
That would be fun.
Because, I mean, Boston's going to not win against Brooklyn, and I don't think Miami is going to beat Milwaukee.
Both seem unlikely.
Both
yeah.
seem unlikely. That
Yeah.
series is going to be fun. That'll be next round.
We did it. We power ranked more things.
Yep.
Tucker, thank you for being here tonight. Tell everybody one more time about, well, just y'all, you can, at this point, you get the reps in. Tell everybody all the different things that you do, where they can get all those things, and what they can expect whenever they get to them.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Tucker D. Franklin. That's the easiest way to stay up to date with what I do. But if you love the Royals, go follow InsideTheRoyals.com or go bookmark that website because it is your home on Sports Illustrated for all things Kansas City Royals. If you love the Kansas City Chiefs, boy, do I have a deal for you because you can go to ArrowheadReport.com. Bookmark that site because it is your SI home for all things Kansas City Chiefs. And we at Roughing the Kicker is an almost daily podcast on ArrowheadReport.com. It will be out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I host that podcast on with my ragtag group of co-hosts. I think that's it.
Ride this music into the sunset, Beards. There it is. Tucker D. Franklin. Follow him on Twitter at Tucker D. Franklin.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810WHB.com. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
All right, really quick, I got to go to a break here, but hold on. Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel. How do you spell Squeakquel?
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thanks again to Tucker Franklin for joining us the last couple of segments at Tucker D. Franklin on Twitter, Arrowhead Report, Inside the Royals, all that good stuff. We will talk about the Royals more and in more depth, significantly, with David Lesky. He'll be in studio here about 10 minutes from now. Looking forward to being able to talk to him in person for the first time in a very, very long time. Also, while that is happening, I don't know, Beards, what the TV situation is going to be, or like where the Suns-Lakers game is going to be whenever it tips off.
It is on TNT.
Is that where the Heat-Bucks game is right now?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll just be on after that wraps up.
Yes.
Then. Cool. So you will have, dear listener, the incredible double feature opportunity of listening to Lesky talking about the Royals while I am losing my mind, perhaps, or at least just in some way struggling watching the Suns and the Lakers. In fact, Beards, if you want to go let Lesky in
I was
now,
just going to say I was going to go do that.
I was going to throw to you on something, and frankly, at this point, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. This show has just sort of taken its own path at this point, and with you going to let Lesky in and Rudy being out tonight, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read the Twitch comments. That's what I'm going to do. Gardiak said on office trinkets and whatnot, my number one is those gravity balls that you pull on one side and watch them bounce back and forth and completely forget about anything else in the world for those short moments. That's a very good one. I don't know if I've ever actually owned one of those. For whatever reason, whenever I think of those, I think of Chuck E. Cheese or Power Play. I think Power Play is probably Is Power Play local? I ask no one in particular. I think that might have just been a prize for a bunch of tickets. You could get yourself one of those, and I don't think I've actually owned one. Chaotic Warrior says, I see Josh doing the thing he gets on Seth for during Times Ours. Is it tweeting during the show? I tweet during breaks. I almost never tweet while the show is I'm talking, certainly. Seth will occasionally let out a couple of tweets while Nate and I are going back and forth. It's absolutely not the same time. S. Wallaby on Twitch asked, does cutting Wade Davis count as a loss? That's something we'll ask Lesky about momentarily. Is that on the table? What are they going to do? We'll cross that bridge starting here in just a couple of minutes. Then let's see here. Where else am I? Math Magician was brilliant. I would like to ask Tucker to clarify at some point if he believes the word is math. Does he think the word is Math Magician instead of mathematician? I'm not sure, but that's incredible. And Chaotic Warrior asked about Seth and his fiery experience. He was on RGR Football with Ryan Tracy right before AAS started tonight. And I can't remember exactly why this happened, but Seth was eating a habanero pepper. Just because. I think it might have come from a super chat on the YouTube channel. I'm not sure. But that went relatively poorly. And if you want to watch it, the video, I'm sure, is archived up on the RGR page. I hopped in for a little bit with Seth and Ryan and Dan Harms.
I did add it to my watch later on YouTube.
It's fun. It's a good time because Seth is in pain, and I find that funny. He said this at the time and then also texted me after the fact. He said, I've simply never seen that look on your face before, which I was sort of surprised by because I didn't feel like I was making a face the entire time. But what I told him is I think it's basically a mix of pride and disappointment. So I finally know how my parents feel all the time, you know? I might be giving myself too much credit. It might just be disappointment. But it was an experience to watch Seth, as I previously described, as both as the smartest. Is he the stupidest smart person or the smartest stupid person? I think.
Stupidest smart is probably better. Because you're saying they're smart, but they also make dumb choices occasionally. Whereas the other way around is You're really dumb, but occasionally you do some smart things.
Yeah, that's probably. I mean, that definitely is most. Well, what you just described is the most like accurate reading into that for Seth. But I'm also not sure which category would you rather be in. Which one do I belong in? Probably not at the full extreme, but I'm somewhere in that category. Maybe I'm the stupidest stupid person you know. Maybe Beards is the smartest smart person you know. We all contain multitudes. And so category you mentioned this is in prep of the ghost pepper. It was, I don't know. I'm sure there was some level of that, but the exciting thing is that Seth got into the ice cream pretty heavy for a habanero. And that ghost pepper, I gotta get tased, but that ghost pepper is gonna mess Seth up for a while, so I'm looking forward to that. Not as much as I'm looking forward to talking to David Lesky, though. He's next.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
You talked to me about Chili's, and I'm going to see if I can confirm something that I'm pretty sure is true about the Nationals World Series ring.
Okay, well, so here's my thing on Chili's.
With Joshua Brisco.
It's garbage.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
David Lesky is back in studio. I'm sorry to cut you off, Lesky, but you weren't wearing your headphones. Old habits. It's been like 2 years since you've been here.
It's been a long time.
You can follow him on Twitter at DBLesky. You can check out Inside the Crown at InsideTheCrown.substack.com. It's good to see your face.
I know.
It's good to have you here.
I'm here.
There's still glass between us, but that's just
right.
because I put that up when I knew you were coming in.
That's fair.
We haven't had this at any point in the
I'm
pandemic.
convinced Rudy's not here because I'm here.
Yeah, I think no. You were locked in before. Yes, I mean he definitely knew that was on the
And
table.
he chose to not. Yeah.
Yeah, he chose to have vaccine symptoms.
Yeah.
Just very conveniently. We had to book Tucker in a rush, and it was just a whole deal. So if it happens again next week, assuming that we have a show next Thursday, we might. If it happens again next week, and if the whole gang is here, but he is gone, then it's a pattern at that point.
I can safely assume it's me.
We have a sample size of 2. We have two bad Brad Keller starts in a row.
It's also 2. It would be 2 of 2.
That's right. That's true.
So it's not like it's 2 of 42.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right out of the game.
I'm gonna look. I'm not gonna take it personally. Yet. Maybe next week.
Definitely next week.
Well,
I think we have to confront him on this next week and be like, hey, man, the hell were you doing?
Can you prove that you had vaccine symptoms?
Did you see him today, Beards? Was he still here whenever you got here?
Yeah, he was.
How did he seem?
He seemed normal-ish.
Wow.
Ish.
How so? What do you mean, ish?
I mean, he was complaining a lot about, oh, my throat.
Yeah.
And, oh, my arm.
Yeah.
I mean, my arm's a little sore. It's fine.
Pretty normal, though.
Yeah.
How are your COVID shot symptoms? Do you have a big day at any point? Can't remember. I feel like I told this already.
No, I was just telling Beards. My second day after my second shot, I was kind of tired, and then I had all the aches that you get with a fever.
Yeah.
But without the fever, I felt great.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that I didn't want to move.
Yeah.
It was weird. I took Advil, and I was fine 20 minutes later, and then it never came back.
I thought you were going to say I took Adderall, and I didn't move. I just focused in. I wrote 14 stories that day at InsideTheCrown.substack.com, and it was great.
I actually wrote ahead, which was weird
because
they didn't happen, but I guessed, and I 30% right.
Yeah, I mean,
which is fine.
You made a dent in it for sure. Listen, man. So, you know what? Actually, I don't want to talk about these last 2 games yet. Because these last 2 games were very painful for very different reasons. Let's start where you wanted to start.
Well, no, I want to hang on.
Let's start before you wanted to start.
The last time we talked.
Let's start in the past.
Was the day of the 11th game. The day of the 11th loss.
Was it really?
And since then, they're 7-5.
They got back to 500
for a minute. Yeah,
for a breath.
And they have a chance. We can talk about this all. They have a chance to get back to that at some point. And the Twins aren't especially good. They're playing better. And they have the Pirates, who are bad. And I think it's the Twins again. Is that right?
I'll let you know in moments.
Okay. Either way, they're playing better. They were back at 500. I think Curtis did the painstaking research that they were the only team to fall under and then come back, which was good, I guess, right?
Next 9 games, 3 against the Twins, 2 against the Pirates, 4 against the Twins again. And then 3 games with the worst good team ever being the Angels. Or I guess the best bad team ever. The most fun bad team, at least.
Well, no Trout.
Trout's out.
No Trout. And Ohtani might miss his bus. You see that story?
No. What happened to Ohtani?
Well, it's a drama.
Okay. Everybody
Apparently,
settle in.
The Angels said that... So Ohtani was supposed to start tonight.
Okay.
But
I completely missed this.
Because of some traffic issues, I guess, he had to take the BART in Oakland. They claimed that there was an issue on that. And that's why he was late to the stadium, so he could not do his pregame. And then the BART Twitter account, I believe, responded with, "Wow, it was great to have Ohtani on our line, but we didn't have any problems, so I don't know what you're talking about."
Huh?
Yeah.
We did not experience. Wow, first, wow, what an honor to host a baseball superstar like Shohei Ohtani on BART. We did not experience any issues on our end. We confirmed with Operations Control Center there was no delay for any Coliseum heading train during the Bay Bridge incident.
Yeah, that's good job.
Really? What is wrong with we could talk about the White Sox for the entire hour and just do an extra hour after the show if we wanted to. But the Angels are so confused. They're frustrating to me as someone who could not give a flying anything about the baseball team in Anaheim. But they have probably the two most interesting players in the sport.
Yeah.
And they are completely irrelevant for the last several years on end, I would say.
It's been a while. I mean, what? Trout's got 12 postseason at bats. We saw them all.
Yeah.
He had one hit.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault. I'm not, Trout should be in the postseason. Rob Manfred should change the rules that
I love this.
The worst postseason team, whatever the bottom seed is, last year it was the 8 seed, this year, normal years it's the 5, gets to have Mike Trout.
Let me take this. I love this. I love this energy.
Okay.
Start with that. Here's what we're going to do. You are going to have your playoff teams. All of the players who are not on playoff teams go into a temporary draft pool.
Okay.
The worst team gets the first pick. Each team gets to add one player, just one player, from the pool of non-playoff players. So if you're if you are in the wild card game,
does it 26-man roster? Does it replace somebody, or do you add a 27th player?
I was thinking you would add a 27th player, but there would be something especially devastating of being like, "Hey man, thank you for your work. We are replacing you with Mike Trout for the playoffs, though."
I like your idea.
We're just playing jazz right now. We're workshopping.
The best team has to pick each. I'm trying to put this. Let's think this through.
I'm so excited about this idea.
Each team ranks their players or ranks other teams' players. The worst team gets to pick. The wild card teams get to pick from 1 through 8.
Okay.
The division winners have to pick from 19 through 26.
Wow.
And replace somebody on their team from, let's go 1 through 18. So they can replace their 18th player, obviously.
So we're basically doing an expansion draft now, I think.
We are leveling the we're leveling the playoff field.
I love that.
Playing field.
I love that.
Yeah. We fixed baseball.
I think we fixed baseball.
It's done.
Boy, I'll tell you what, late May is about when you start fixing baseball on the radio.
This is like 7.5 minutes in.
Yeah.
We've done this.
Yeah, we've got 50 minutes here to just smell our own farts on this one. Just be like, man, we fixed baseball. It's, as we've previously established, everybody does crack. Home run derby.
Cork all the bats.
Cork all the bats.
Sure.
Coke all the hitters. And home run derby just after the 7th inning. We're shortening. All games are 7-inning games now. But every day is a doubleheader.
Well, hang on.
More off days.
Is it over after 7, or is it just 2 innings of home run derby?
No. It's well, yeah. So there is a home run derby every time. So this 8th and 9th innings are actually replaced by home run derbies.
Okay.
And I don't know how the scoring of that's going to work. I'm an ideas guy, you know.
That's what the designated hitter's for. That's the only time they appear.
Oh wow, we take them out of the first 7 innings and they come in for the last 2 for home run derby. I leave the logistics to the nerds.
Yeah, sure.
That's their job, you know.
I get it.
Push
I
up their
totally get
glasses
it.
and they can fix all of these issues. I'm just giving them a genius
You
ideas.
give them the blueprint.
That's right.
And they build the house.
Hey, build this house. That's exactly right. Except for my blueprint is all done on a legal pad that has my top 5 office supplies ranked on it.
That's fair.
Which is pretty on brand, I think. You wanted to talk about maybe the best thing to ever happen in modern baseball today. I explained it badly earlier after Beards explained it even worse than I did. I'm going to let you explain this time the magic that we saw.
Do I need to go through this whole thing?
Thing.
Okay.
Take us all the way through it.
Runner, I think I don't actually know 100%. I think there was a runner on third with 2 outs for the Pirates.
Yes.
I'm sorry, for the Cubs. Cubs versus
Against
Pirates.
the Pirates.
The Pirates were pitching.
Yes.
Javi Baez at the plate. He hits a ground ball to third. Dawdles down the first base line a little bit.
Perfect.
He really did.
Dawdled.
The throw is offline. Will Craig, the Pirates' first baseman, if you've never heard of him, you have now.
Yep. I did not know his name until right now. I've seen that clip 5 times today.
He was a decent prospect at one point, sort of. And he comes off the bag, takes the throw. Baez, I don't believe he had any plans. I do not.
No. It's a strategy I simply have not seen before.
I'll come
in
back
this
to
situation.
This. He was having fun, and he
Yes.
ran away because you see that a lot. You see guys run away a lot, and you know what typically happens with 2 outs is the first baseman laughs, turns around, touches first base, and goes into the dugout.
And the inning is over.
Because
there were 2 outs.
But instead of that, Will Craig decided that he wanted to play a game of tag with Javi Baez.
He had him in a pickle between home and first.
He had him in a very important pickle because with 2 outs he couldn't just step on the bag. So he gets all the way to home plate, and at this point, all he has to do is he could tag Javi Baez.
I'm raising my hand to ask a question.
Yes.
So if a hitter hits the ball and goes to first,
yes,
but he doesn't get to first, instead he goes back to home and he stands on home plate.
Yes.
Is he safe? Because I don't think that he is, but I want to ask
That is
you.
correct. No, he is not safe.
So you cannot go back home.
You can't go back home and say, I want to redo.
You do have to go around all the bases. You can't just go to the right.
He
down
did
the first
not
base
score
line
a run
and come,
by going up the first base line and
That's
back.
what I thought, but it doesn't seem that's what William Craigiford thought.
And so instead of tagging Javi Baez, which he was closer than you and I are right now.
Yes. It was a COVID risk.
He was that you're right. He probably was trying to
stay socially distanced.
Maybe he's not vaccinated. I get it. And instead of tagging Javi Baez, he throws home, which the runner on third beat the throw. Okay. Now, Javi Baez said, "This is fun," and called the runner safe himself. He played umpire.
Yes.
He stood there.
He wasn't even going back to first.
And then he said, "Hang on, I have not yet reached first base nor been deemed out." So he starts running back to first. The catcher, I assume it was Jacob Stallings, who's actually a pretty good catcher for the Pirates.
You
I don't
know
know.
so
Maybe
much more about baseball than
I have a problem.
It's just it's unbelievable.
He throws to first where nobody was covering.
If you would have put a gun in my mouth and said, "Quick, say the name of the Pirates catcher," I would have just gone, "Jason Kendall," and then I would have died.
He plays on Sundays. But yeah, so throws to first, ball gets away, Baez gets on second, ends up scoring. I think the next batter got a hit.
Jason Kendall's last year was here in 2010.
Of course it was.
It was a decade ago.
Rewind yourself.
I can't believe that I cut.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Well, more than a decade.
He hasn't.
It's 2021, not 2020.
It's been more than a decade since he last played Major League Baseball. It's been 17 years since he played in Pittsburgh.
Really?
But it was 2004 was last year in Pittsburgh. But you know why I know Jason Kendall forever? He was in backyard baseball.
That is true. He was. So anyway.
Sorry.
That's fine. So
Jason Kendall
throws it away.
First. Throws it away.
You kind of understand it. He's 71 years old. So I get it.
Right.
And at that point the internet says, "Wow, Javi Baez is so smart." He's a magician.
He's a magician. The Cubs Twitter account called him a magician.
And his nickname is El Mago, which, fine, whatever. I don't think he had any intentions of anything on that play except for, I'm going to have fun and run away from this tag. And then Will Craig said, "I've played baseball my entire..." And you can read his lips. He said this exactly. "I have played baseball my entire life, but I have decided to forget everything. Throw this ball home and pretend like that's the important play. That's the play that I have to make right now."
That's a lot to say while chasing somebody down.
It was very slow developing.
It was a lot, and I think that's part of the problem. He was working on his monologue as he was running down the first baseline.
Also, I wouldn't narrate what you're saying to the opposing player.
I know. Look,
competitive disadvantage for sure.
I mean, the Pirates. That's why they're one of the worst teams in baseball. They tell the other team what they're going to do, and what they were going to do was vomit on the field, basically. And good for them.
Yeah, good for them.
You know what? I think. Look back at those Royals teams of the mid 2000s. They consistently did the dumbest things you could possibly do on the field. There was no look. You watch a Rangers game. And you're like, that team's not good, but occasionally they play well. No. With these Pirates, with the Royals in the mid 2000s, no. They're bad. We know it. And it doesn't take a magician to make that happen.
Beards, do you have your power rankings for future potential Royals losses for this year?
I do.
This is part of our power rankings last hour. A few things that I think could happen for the Royals this year, given how these last 2 games have gone. Thank you, Beards. I think they could just lose 1-0. Hasn't happened yet. Just a devastating crushing. Has not. I checked.
Oh, wow.
No 1-0 losses yet.
Do they have a 2-0?
Last night was 2-1.
I know, but I feel like they had a
They may have. I
2-0.
literally just looked for 1-0 just so I made sure that I got
That's
my...
fair.
Because facts are important to me when we're doing power rankings with this music.
Clearly, with Jason Kendall behind the
Absolutely.
plate.
Number 4, Team Mobs, Angel Hernandez. They finished the game with only 4 players because everyone else has been ejected. Number 3...
Hang on, is that really a loss, though? I
I
feel like that's a victory.
That's a great point. It's a moral victory for sure.
It's a Pyrrhic victory.
It's not going to get you back to 500, though. A what?
A Pyrrhic victory.
Come on, let me Google that.
I know about that.
Give me your power rankings. You can Google it later.
Number 3, Bobby Witt Jr. hit 6 home runs in his debut. They lose 14-13.
Sounds right.
Jose Canseco style headbutt over the right field wall by Jorge Soler.
I was
Walk-off.
really hoping that Jose Canseco was going to come back.
Yeah, me too. I was also hoping for that, actually. But I feel like Soler is the guy to take that torch as far as headbutting a baseball over the fence. And then number 1, Danny Duffy returns. First game back. Tommy John scare. He goes 9 full innings because he's got a no-hitter going. You get to extras. He comes back out for the 10th, but there's a runner on second. Ground ball to second base. Witt boots it. He scores from second.
I buy that.
No-hitter, loss. That's probably happened before, right? Not a no-hitter, probably.
Yeah.
Has a no-hitter ended in a loss?
Yeah. Oh, God. Who was it? It was
Jason Kendall?
Jason Kendall threw the no-hitter, yeah. He was pitcher and catcher in that game, actually.
It was incredible. It's like that Bugs Bunny cartoon where you're just running and playing
He
every
didn't throw very
spot.
hard, so it was fine.
Ken Johnson in 1964 threw a no-hitter and lost.
Dude, who was that? White Sox? It's a good radio.
The Houston Colt 45s.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Had lost to the Cincinnati Reds.
Were you not listening? I said Colt 45s.
You said Colt 45s. I heard that
I knew there
for
was
sure.
a C.
Yeah.
Whether it was Chicago or Colt
Colt.
45s.
It's hard to say confidently.
I could see any of those happening.
I could see all of those happening.
I would like to. The addendum to that is I think the Royals getting no hits somehow push across 3 runs and lose 4-3.
I like that one also. I like that a lot.
It just feels like a very Royals loss too.
Yeah.
Look, hey, we're cheering this because they walked 9 times. They had
Right.
some productive outs.
Right.
But it was a grand, and maybe it's a grand slam in the bottom of the 9th that they lose 4-3 after they were no hit, even though they scored 3. I don't know. I feel maybe tomorrow. We'll see.
Beard, do you want to run through your top 5 real quick?
I can. Do you want me to also explain real quick what a Pyrrhic victory is? Because I'm a history nerd.
Yes. I don't want you to read from the internet, but if you can explain
I know
how
it.
top... Yeah, then I'd love this. Yes.
So there was the
Can you
Pyrrhic.
cut I just want this to be very serious.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, thank you.
King Pyrrhus of Epirus, it was kind of over in Greece, decided to fight
Did he name a kingdom after himself?
It's
Or
spelled-
was he
it's
named
spelled a little
after the
differently.
kingdom?
I don't know. He ended up fighting the Romans.
By himself?
Well, no, he had an army with him. This is the important part. There were, I think, only like 3 battles in the war. He won the first 2, but lost a whole bunch of men every time. And then the third one, the Romans won. But basically, he lost so many men in each fight that even though he technically won, he ended up running out of guys and had to go back and forfeit, basically. So you won, but at great cost. Number 5, Brandon Maurer returns and somehow blows a save. Number 4, the Javi Baez nonsense from today happens. Number 3, the Royals decide nobody can hit, so they put in Slugger. Number 2, they're down 3 at the bottom of the 9th. 3 strikes, or no, 3 balls, 2 outs, 2 outs. Bases loaded.
I love whenever Beard starts leaking confidence. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Soler is at the plate. Chance to hit a grand slam to win the game. Mid-swing, he strains his butt. Strikeout. And then number 1, Mad Bum.
We can call that gluteus maximus, right?
Not around here, we don't.
It's a butt strain.
Nope.
Not around here,
Okay.
we don't. It's all about not straining your butt. Holy smokes. I don't know. Maybe you would disagree with this. I didn't find today's game to be all that interesting. Like Brady Singer just getting his head bashed
Let me tell you a
is
little
not great.
something
But
with about Inside the Crown
Yes.
and today's game.
yes.
I have no earthly idea of any interesting point to write about.
Perfect. It's just because you could probably just go. You know what I love to do whenever I got to just hit a word count? Go quote yourself from a previous story.
Yeah.
You could probably stitch together a couple past
Well, I got a
Brady Singer
couple things on Royals Review tomorrow too. It's
Yeah,
fine.
just plagiarize yourself.
Yeah.
That's fine.
No, today's game was quite possibly the least interesting game of the season. And
Yeah.
they've had some dull ones.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's 162 games. They're not all going to be winners.
Correct.
Literally or
empirically.
interesting.
Mhm.
I mean, because think about even last night's game was interesting.
Absolutely. That I'm sort of planning to skip over today to go to last night because last night had some stuff.
Sure. Yeah. No. And I literally the game ended at what 4:45.
Yeah.
I could be done writing.
Yeah.
But I haven't started writing
Because there's just
because I don't know. I got nothing. I'll find something.
I
figured you and I would talk, and you might trigger something in me or not, and then I just go home and vomit on a page.
I mean, it's
for a while.
it's just all of everything that happened today that wasn't good was all stuff that has been not good for a while.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what Jorge Soler did today? If you missed the game, he was 0 for 4.
But he didn't strike out 4 times.
That's true, and
So-
God bless him for that.
Good for him.
But I mean, it's just a whole bunch
They
of that.
kind of hit Royals bingo, right? Because
Yeah.
they had some hard hit outs.
Yep.
Starter went 2 2/3.
Yep, that's right.
2 2/3.
Junis came in and was better than the starter. He hasn't really been out of the pen that much, but
They did pull some starters really early.
I thought that was very strange.
That was bizarre. And I thought, and I tweeted this, but I thought if maybe they've got some roster moves coming up. They need a starter on Saturday. I literally forgot the existence of Carlos Hernandez, by the way, who I think is going to be the guy on Saturday. Thought it was Jackson Coar for the whole time.
That would be great.
If
Hernandez walked in right now and sat down in this chair, I would be like, hey, "Are you lost?" I'm sorry. So
he's a big guy. So
I would piece it together and
you'd
be like
confused.
yeah.
I
I would just assume that you brought a friend.
This is my buddy Carlos. At some point, they're going to have to bring up Edward Olivares. They can't just leave him in AAA. At some point, Dozier's going to come back at some point. There's some things going on. Hanser Alberto, Ryan O'Hearn don't seem long for this roster. So I thought, hey, it's their swan song. And then they immediately single and home run for the two of them. So that was good. Yeah, it was just weird. You don't typically pull guys midway through the 5th inning.
And if
I don't
you're
know, it
going
just seemed
to, why is it Witt and Santana?
Well, I think I actually have an answer for this. I think that they wanted to get Alberto and O'Hearn an extra at bat, and those guys were due up in the next inning.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense because I think. Let's see. I think Taylor ended the 5th or Soler. Either way, it was either 8-9-1 due up or 9-1-2.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense. I don't know. I feel Whit Merrifield was robbed of his chance to extend his sad hitting streak.
Also, kind of weird. Just not like that. Just let him do. I don't know that he cares. He's had way more fun hitting streaks. But
he was 5 for 19 over his last 5 games with a hit in each game. But hey, it's a hitting streak.
It's a hit in each game.
Could have gotten to 56.
It
could have been the saddest 56 game hitting streak ever.
Absolutely. He would have had 56 hits over that stretch. Just one every day.
It was
just
bizarre.
consistent. Yeah.
So I guess that's interesting from today's game, but also not.
It was as interesting as us talking about it for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's how interesting it was.
We covered it. I'm good.
The one thing that I guess could have some ramifications is I'm honestly interested to know where you're at on Brady Singer right now, because there's been ups and downs. It's not quite Brad Keller ups and downs, I don't think, but this is not great today.
So today was his 22nd start in the big leagues. 12 last year.
I would have taken the under on that. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I didn't realize how many starts he had gotten.
It kind of over 2
this
seasons
year.
it kind of adds up.
Yeah, sure.
So knowing that, right, 22 starts is typically like 2/3 of a season. If you get a full season's worth of starts. So keeping that in mind, let's just put that. Let's compartmentalize that.
Got it back here.
He hasn't gotten any better. He's not worse.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty much the same pitcher today that he was on, what would that have been, July 25th, 2020, when he made his big league debut in Cleveland. Pretty much identical.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say this the right way without ruffling feathers, because the last time I talked about the Royals pitching coach on this night show, a certain former Royals pitcher was not happy with me.
Really?
On a certain morning show.
Really? I think I must have missed that feather ruffling.
It's no big deal. I just don't think Cal Eldred is good at his job.
Sure.
And I'm allowed that opinion.
That's legal.
I
just looked it
also
up.
I kind of wonder who's gotten better
Yeah.
since Cal Eldred has been pitching coach. And you can give him some credit for Keller's 2020, but
Mhm.
also should he get some blame for just 2021?
Sure.
I don't know. I don't actually know I don't know what's the correct answer here, but I can tell you that I'm having a hard time finding pitchers who have gotten better since 2018. And again, Brady Singer, 22 starts. In a typical season, if opening day last year was whenever it was supposed to be, March 31st, whatever it was, and he was up and this was his 22nd start of the season, it would be like, what, August, late July. Would you be upset that a rookie pitcher hadn't gotten over the hump? I don't know. I don't think so. But also, you would hope to see some progress, especially with an off season in there.
I think you'd like to see a thing.
You'd like to see him.
Where
He's still
adds
sinker
something
slider.
or right. He either adds something to the pitch selection, or something goes from being good to dominant.
Yes.
He can go deeper into games. He doesn't need to be fully formed by this point by any means, but it would have been great to see something level up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think on one hand it's 22 games, on the other hand there was a full off season, and a full spring training in between start 12 and start 13, and so. I think that there's some legitimacy to being worried about that.
Yeah.
There's time, obviously, but I have my questions, and it goes beyond Singer. It's Cal Eldred. Let me take a step back too. A lot of people, what about the hitting coach? I think a big league hitting coach is far less, I won't say important because that's not fair to Terry Bradshaw. Impactful than a pitching coach.
Yeah.
And there's a number of reasons for that. But I think a pitching coach can work a lot more magic on a team. I don't know. A good hitting coach is great too. And I think that Terry Bradshaw probably deserves some criticism as well for the Royals' offensive approach and all that. But I don't know. I have some very serious concerns about all this young pitching coming to the big league staff and working with this coaching staff. It concerns me.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, what if they can reach their ceiling. And look, I think that if you go back a few years, there was a lot of talk about Cal Eldred not being willing to embrace technology, not being willing to look at stats. They're embracing that. So maybe he's I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. So maybe he has changed enough. Maybe he has grown as a coach. Maybe he has, Matheny's willingness to embrace analytics has leaked onto Cal Eldred. I don't know.
I wish you would have phrased that any other way, but yeah.
No. There was a reason for that.
Has it leaked onto him?
I think that Matheny needs to leak as much as possible. But it concerns me. And Brady Singer is not necessarily he's what we're talking about right now, but I want to see what happens when Daniel Lynch comes back, because he's going to come back.
Yep.
I mean, the guy's got a good arm.
Yep.
He's going to be fine.
Yep.
I want to see how Brad Keller continues to evolve. Now, he's been interesting. He struck out 24 guys in his last 23 innings. That's not Keller-like.
Yeah.
So maybe
it's decidedly non-Keller.
Yes, exactly.
It's literally that's.
And
inverse of what
that's encouraging. And Duffy, but then you worry about, why did Jacob Junis have to go outside the organization to find a cutter? And that's his brother, so maybe that's not the best example. I don't know. I don't know if I'm onto something, or if I'm a conspiracy theorist, or somewhere in between. Probably somewhere in between. But it's just concerning to me. I think, and we'll see how it goes. But they've got a lot of young arms coming up, and real quick, just to go into the bullpen. Let's leak into the bullpen.
Let's leak in.
Tyler Zuber hasn't gotten better. Yeah. He's another guy. Barlow has been good. I don't know how much of that is big league development. That could be a point in Eldred's favor.
Yeah.
Josh Daumont, up until the last few games, that could be a point in Cal Eldred's favor. It's not all bad. I don't want to make it seem like everything he touches turns to what's the word I can use?
Poopy.
There you go. But But that's a concern for me, and I think other people share that. I don't think I'm the only one.
The interesting thing there, one thing that has popped up a couple times whenever I've doing like baseball tonight a bunch and talking to some of the former players that we have in our rotation and everything. The one element of baseball that I just didn't really appreciate coming into it really is the constant back and forth and the evolution and adjusting to the adjustments that are made to what you did, adjusting last year. Like that element of that tennis match back and forth. Like that's just something that I never really thought about. Where, because for me, Derek Jeter was basically the same player the whole time. But in reality, that's not really fair. Like everyone is evolving the entire time. So there's probably something to like, these guys aren't taking big steps backwards, but you would like to see them. You would like to see them be evolving in a positive way. So, like, I don't know. It feels stagnant with sort of you taking a crack at a few of those things in particular. And stagnant's not going to get you there. And, like, maybe you could take all of these guys individually and you could explain why each of them individually have essentially reached their ceiling. But it's a pretty big ask.
It's mounting evidence.
Yeah. And so I don't know. That makes me a little bit nervous. What do you think about Singer, particularly long term? Because we talk so much, and this is also by we, I mean I, about the young pitchers as a hive mind. It is just a bunch of these young pitchers who are going to be here eventually. And for me, it's always in these vague terms. You need an ace, and you need a high-end number 2 guy. You'd love to have somebody that can fill out your rotation and a couple guys that can do some good work in the bullpen or whatever. You don't need 5 aces. You're not going to get 5 aces. Not every single one of these dudes is going to be perfect. I've already forgotten. Someone's having Tommy John like now.
Jonathan Bolin.
So like guys are going to get hurt. It's all of these are going to be moving pieces and moving targets and everything. And I wonder if Brady Singer is going to have sort of the brightest spotlight shown on him because he got here first. Yeah. But whenever, to go into some more specifics, throughout the rotation of those young pitchers, where does Singer end up kind of in your hopes for ceilings and in your hopes for best guess of what they're actually going to be?
So one thing that I like to think about with a team, like Brad Keller is a great example. If he's your best starter, you probably have a bad rotation.
Right.
It's not bad if he's in your rotation, though.
Right. Yep.
You're good with him as your 4 or your 5, or if he takes a step forward. But Brad Keller in his current form should not be your ace.
Right.
Brady Singer is that guy too, and that's okay.
That's really valuable. I mean, they paid Mike Minor a lot of money to just be a dude in the rotation.
Well,
who doesn't
Mike Minor?
On his shoes.
They gave Ian Kennedy 5 years and $70 million.
They sure did
6 years ago.
Yeah, it's true.
To be a 3.
Yeah,
and there is so much value in being able to get.
Yeah, if Brady Singer's doing that for you,
you
don't have to pay Ian Kennedy or Mike Minor to do it for you. That money can go somewhere else.
Exactly. And so I think when it's all said and done, and this is as he currently is, as a sinker slider guy that throws a changeup 8% of the time, if he doesn't evolve in any way, then he can't be your ace. Now, he can be a really good 3.
Yeah.
And again, super valuable.
Super valuable.
It's okay.
Yeah.
They need to find an ace from Coar, Lynch, which I know people are scoffing because he was bad for 3 starts, but I wouldn't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Lacey.
The Daniel Lynch thing is he was tipping his pitches, right?
Yes, I think.
I'm also kind of guessing. But
there was some more than that, I think, probably. But also, he did some. Anyway, he's looked better in AAA.
Yeah,
he's had 2. One start, 1 relief appearance, but that was after an opener because they were trying to get somebody some work. I think that was the game that Hahn left early. They were trying to get him.
Oh, that might be
there.
right.
Yeah. But I mean, there's guys we haven't talked about. Bolin's disappointing because I really liked him.
Yeah.
I think he was really underrated, but he wasn't going to be that ace guy. Alec Marsh is in AA. He could be that guy. I mean, it really is just name after name after name. Austin Cox just got he was injured. Just I don't think he was really hurt as much as he was just kind of fighting through some stuff.
Yeah.
He just got assigned to AA, so he's there now. Carlos Hernandez, he hasn't shown well in the big leagues, but the guy throws upper 90s with good breaking stuff.
Yeah.
He could. There's so many options that it's okay if Singer's not that guy. The thing that I like about Singer, he's proven he can be a big league pitcher. He's proven he can succeed in the big leagues. And right now his ERA looks bloated because he had a bad game today. And, he's still at the point, innings-wise this season, where he's got kind of the reliever thing going, that his ERA just shoots up and down because of he's only at like 50 innings. That's not a full season for a reliever even. So that's he looks worse than he actually has been right now. But even if he doesn't get better, I think the Royals are fine with him. It would just be nice to see him get better.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see, hey, you know what? I think he is a 3. Let's see if he can become a 2.
Do you know Ian Kennedy's out here right now with 11 saves and a sub-2 ERA?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I was talking to some people, and I said, who the Royals need is a established reliever, established closer that would really help the bullpen. And then I said, the Rangers have a guy they could go after. And the person I was talking to went and looked it up and literally sent me the middle finger emoji. So there was that.
Oh, my goodness. That's hilarious. I did not know that.
Yeah, he's been great.
He's
been fantastic.
I'm trying to think of how many times I've watched non-Royals baseball.
He was good in 2019.
Yeah.
So,
He let's see. I mean, it's his 2019 ERA was 3.41. It was the best that he did in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And,
I think he was better than that even. I mean, the ERA didn't tell the whole story.
Yeah,
sure. I feel like. So, yeah, he's been really good for the Rangers. Good for him.
Royals gave him a lot of money.
They did.
Off of some kind of just like some interesting seasons.
He had a solid 2016.
Yeah. It's fine.
I think that
Jason Kendall and Ian Kennedy, by the way. What a show we're doing here tonight. Holy bleep.
I think that the Ian Kennedy deal was never a good contract.
Yeah.
But the juiced baseball, that was some classic bad Royals luck.
Yeah.
That they sign a guy who, and look, their whole strategy back then was, hey, we've got a great outfield. Let's get a bunch of guys who give up fly balls. And all of a sudden the fly balls, they just kept flying.
They're just going.
Nobody can catch them. It was,
well, these are all the
bad
fountains
situation.
now, so maybe that's not going to work out. David Lesky, he's at DB Lesky on Twitter. You can check out Inside the Crown at insidethecrown.substack.com. We got to take a break. Whenever we come back, I don't know. We'll spin the wheel on the Inside the Crown wheel. We'll land on a story, and we'll talk about one of the stories you want to talk about. And people can go read it also at insidethecrown.substack.com. Did you catch it? You're supposed to go to the link. Go to the link right now. Or bit.ly/Lesky hates Bobby Witt.
Is that still what it is?
Still.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
All right, so right now, if you want to go to the Inside the Crown newsletter, you can go to bit.ly/Lesky hates Bobby Witt, and it will take you right there. And whenever Lesky starts calling for Bobby Witt to come up, I will change that URL, which I can do, to bit.ly/Lesky loves Bobby Witt. But right now, bit.ly/Lesky hates Bobby Witt.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You can also go to bit.ly/the Royals hate Lesky or bit.ly/Lesky hates money. All of those things will get you to the Inside the Crown newsletter written by David Lesky in studio with us here on Almost Entirely Sports. You can also follow him on Twitter at DBLesky. We were talking during the break about what we do with our just copious amounts of free time that we both have so much of. I think you may have mentioned previously at some point that you've been doing Spanish. You've been learning Spanish.
So we want to go to Mexico City for Day of the Dead.
Oh, fun!
And so I feel like I should be able to speak a little bit of a little Espanol.
So far you're nailing it. How long have you been now working on this?
Let's see. I can tell you, my streak is 20-something days.
Oh my goodness! I didn't even realize that. What is the app you're using?
Duolingo. It is
having a streak is so smart because I hate breaking a streak.
I know. I'm at 24 straight days.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
fluent.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
Okay.
I could make my way around Mexico pretty easily. No, it's a cool app. It's interesting because I'm the type of person I want to know why you're saying things a certain way.
Yeah.
But Duolingo doesn't teach you that way.
Yeah.
They teach you through repetition.
Yeah.
And so I'm struggling with that. So my wife is sort of not fluent, but she knows some Spanish.
Sure.
And every time I'm on it, I'm like, hey, why does it? I'm like yelling. I'm just like, I'm working.
Yeah. Like, hey, do you mind? I'm working, and you're on an app trying to. You've been doing this for a month, and you can't find your way around Mexico. You can find your way around a Mexican food menu right now.
I might be able to go to margaritas.
Yeah.
And,
you won't ask for anything without jalapenos. Like that.
Correct.
That's as far as you've gotten.
Sin jalapenos.
Yes. I took a full year in high school of Latin.
I took 2 years of Latin.
I took one.
So good. I remember the conjugation charts. You mentioned like wanting to know why things work that way. That's one thing that Latin is good for. It's a dead language. People don't speak it, but it's used
helpful
all over
for
the place.
vocabulary.
Absolutely.
I took 2 years of Spanish in high school, then 2 years of Latin, and then 2 years of Hebrew in college.
No kidding.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I learned it all through growing up, right? And so I thought this is going to be a really easy 2 years. And it was like the first 2 weeks of the first semester was everything that I learned from like kindergarten through whenever I stopped going to Hebrew school.
Right.
And then it was, I don't know any of this. And so it was really hard. There were like 8 of us in the class.
This could be a weird cross-reference, but I've just sent a message to girlfriend Renee, who is about to... Boy, I should really know what her degree is specifically in. She's about to finish. She just submitted her dissertation for her master's. And at one point, I walked in on her reading Hebrew, and I said, how much Hebrew do you know? Please answer at your earliest convenience. And she said, off my head a little, with my programs and notes a fair amount. So you can take that. I don't know if she's a faker. I can't fact check it.
I'll tell you, I can read it. I don't know that I could. I can say a few things. I remember when I was in 3rd grade, I asked my teacher, how do you say something like "you're bad"? And so she gave me the translation that ended up being "you're not cool," and it's "ata lo nora."
And that's in there.
You're not awesome.
Hit me with "you're not awesome" in Hebrew, please.
Ata lo nora. Now you know it.
This show is bilingual now,
and I can give you mother, Ima, and Abba. I'm running
Abba
out.
makes sense.
I'm running out.
But yeah, that's like that's the one thing from Latin that's kind of fun is you can, like, and I know that apongo is to fight.
Yeah.
Still, I don't know why that's in there.
Carpe galore, seize the chicken.
That's so good. Seize the chicken is so.
I don't know why that stuck. The other thing that stuck from Latin. Did you guys watch? What's his? I Claudius.
No.
It's like a 12-part miniseries
Holy
about
smokes.
Claudius, who's crazy.
Right?
That's what I remember the most from Latin class.
To the movies, yeah.
I Claudius.
Yeah, it's a 12-part miniseries.
He's the one who married a horse, I believe.
I'm gonna Google that. I could have sworn that was Jason Kendall.
It was actually Ian Kennedy.
It was Ian Kennedy.
Yeah.
Beards. Now you don't have any tattoos, but we've had
No.
this conversation a number of times. Do you have any tattoos, Lesky?
I don't.
I don't
I have
know.
a birthmark
Well, can I see?
on my hand.
It's
It's a tattoo.
that's crazy. It's in the shape of a dagger. It's incredible that
Yeah.
that would turn out that way.
It's amazing.
I don't know. I don't want to bully anyone into getting a tattoo, but I like talking about people's tattoo ideas, and then maybe I'm the one that can give them the encouragement that they need if they've been thinking about it, right? Beards.
Yes.
Have you considered, in Latin, seize the chicken? maybe it's like like across your collarbone.
No, I think it goes over the heart.
Forearm. Oh, the heart is
Over the
very
stomach.
good. Oh, like Thug Life, but
What
instead
about
of Thug
lower
Life.
back? Lower back
Lower-
sees the chicken.
Okay, so here's over the belly button in Latin, which is what again?
Carpe galora.
Carpe galora on over the
I
belly
hope
button.
I'm right about that.
Well, he's getting the tattoo, so we got to fact check it soon. And maybe over the belly button, it's in Latin. Under it, it's in English. Sees the chicken, and then lower back, it's just a tattoo of a chicken.
Strip.
Of a chicken stripping, I guess, if that's your thing. That's not what I want, but if it's what you want, Beards, your life, your body.
I don't think he should get to decide what goes on his back. He doesn't see it.
Great point. His fiance is all tatted up. She's got like all.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And you just that is it's sort of surprising that she hasn't like.
I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. Yeah, they're a very fun, very very interesting pair, which
Sounds like
I mean is a genuine compliment, mostly because she's cool and Beards is a dork. That's what I mean.
They're interesting because she's interesting.
They're interesting because she's interesting and he's Beards.
They are an 8 of interest. She's a 10. He's a 2.
Has she tried to get you to get a tattoo of any, or is she encouraged? She got some like recently. These aren't all just like old. Like she got a couple new ones, I think, right?
Yes.
Has that been a conversation at all?
Oh, she's tried.
What has she tried to get you to get?
Anything.
What's been her like favorite idea?
I don't think she's had ideas of what I should get. Just more, hey, you should.
I would like to design you a tattoo. I'm not a designer, but I would like to do this.
I would also like to do this. If you had to get a tattoo right now, Lesky, what would it be? You can't say Alex Gordon diving out over your lower back.
I was gonna say Alex Gordon's face on my stomach and the back of his head on my back.
It is a full wrap.
Yes.
Like a shrink wrap or whatever on on a truck.
No, I would, or maybe his face on the front and like his number 4 on my back.
Wow, that's pretty good. Or just get the full. I'll tell you what, that if I can make
Get
it
the
a little
jersey.
more tasteful, full jersey,
Sure.
absolutely.
Should I have it like it's hanging off a little bit?
Ooh,
or
I don't know how you would do that.
I don't know either. But
that sounds like a real challenge. I'm not totally sure.
that sounds like a 3 or 4 day tattoo.
Yeah, you're gonna have to sit for a while, especially if you go like full color.
I clearly have time.
That's right.
So
that's right. Think of all the stories you could write while getting your Alex Gordon jersey tattoo.
Probably have to dictate.
Probably.
But either way, that's fine.
Why did Claudius marry a horse?
I don't know.
There are a lot of Roman emperors that were crazy, man.
Yeah, but this was it. Wait, was it Claudius or Caligula?
Oh no, it's Caligula.
Caligula.
Oh no, he tried to make his horse a senator. That's what he did.
Sorry.
And then he also tried to make a war with Poseidon and had his Neptune had his soldiers attack the ocean because.
Well, I mean, the ocean had it coming.
If
we're being honest.
Caligula was a little crazy. And by a little, I mean, oh boy.
The Roman emperor known as Caligula loved one of his horses, Incatus, so much that he gave the steed a marble stall, an ivory manger, a jeweled collar, and even a house.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you don't take care of your loved ones, then who's going to?
There's a Wikipedia page just for
the horse.
Incitatus.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning in Latin, meaning swift or at full gallop.
He was, Claudius was the miniseries. Caligula, there was a one PBS special about it that we watched. Dude was crazy.
He also, one term emperor, just 4 years.
He had enough.
You know why?
No.
He found his horse.
Because his bodyguards assassinated him.
That makes sense.
There are a lot of Roman emperors that got assassinated by their bodyguards.
I saw such a good tweet of somebody. I don't know who it was. I'm not going to try and give him credit because this is super stupid. And then we'll take a break and we'll come back. We'll talk about Whit Merrifield. You could get the pine tar on your back.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Which also you could play off as like a birthmark if you wanted to.
Sure.
Like if someone was like, "What is that?" You could be like, "A birthmark, you bleep hole." somebody tweeted if, I think it was Socrates, that if Socrates taught today, he'd be canceled. I believe Socrates was poisoned in his own time and killed.
right.
So I think he got sort of super canceled.
He was canceled at the time.
Claudius was Caligula's uncle.
Oh, that's right.
Wow,
Okay.
all in the family.
The assassins didn't manage to get to him, but they got everybody else in his family.
I think Claudius was actually liked somewhat.
I think that's right.
Yeah, which is really rare. And that's why he had a 12-part miniseries, because he was liked enough that
That he lived all of that
people
life.
actually, let him do it.
Right, that he actually got to go through all of that. All right, well, we'll take a break, and whenever we come back, we'll either talk about baseball or Roman history more with David Lesky of Inside the Crown and Royals Review whenever we come back.
At JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy, at Sports Radio 810. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco
Everything that comes out of Keller's hand is hard.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We got 2 minutes with David Lesky to round out the show tonight. Lesky, here's what I want to do.
Talk fast.
You can read all these things at InsideTheCrown.substack.com, bit.ly/Lesky hates Bobby Witt, or Lesky hates money. It also works. I'm going to rat-a-tat-tat through some things. I'm going to get 15-second takes from you on a bunch of these
All right.
things. Mike Matheny's game plan last night, late game strategy.
Poor.
Wade Davis,
Done.
Whit Merrifield,
Bad. Slumping. He's not bad. He's slumping.
Jorge Soler.
Oh boy. He
Oh boy, might be it actually.
he needs a quad injury.
Yeah, a
that sends him to
contusion
Omaha.
somewhere. Mm-hmm.
Just
A
10
butt
games.
strain? A butt strain?
A butt strain.
A butt contusion.
A butt contusion.
Boy, if he had a butt contusion.
A butt hematoma.
Oh my goodness. Your excellent big picture look at hitters struggling to hit more large. Take a full 30 on that one.
Okay.
Because I want people to
I'm
go
watching
read
the
this.
clock. Basically, the gist of it is that pitchers are really, really good. Hitters can never be the instigator. Hitters always have to react. And so when pitchers keep getting better and better and better and better, it's basically impossible for hitters at some point, on some level. And so something's got to get done to make pitchers less good.
Yeah.
And look, it happened in 1968. They lowered the mound because pitchers were too good in 68. 69, the mound went down, I think, 5 inches, and offense came back a little bit. Something's got to get done.
What do you like as your first shot on that?
Honestly, I didn't like moving the mound back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw a really great segment on MLB Network about it. I wrote about it, and it was in the article. I think I'm in on that. I think that makes sense. At first, I thought about lowering the mound, and then I thought, no, moving it back makes a lot of sense because it'll increase action too. It'll increase stolen bases. It'll make pitchers throw less wonky pitches, all sorts of stuff. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I would watch it. I'd also read it Inside the Crowd if I were you. InsideTheCrowd.substack.com. David Lesky at DB Lesky on Twitter. Bye, Mom!
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.